Good good morning, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Everybody, I know people are going to start to come in a little slow. Thank you, Jada, for coming in early. And if you watch this back, please leave a comment. I just want to echo what JDUB always says. Like, it's important to leave those comments and just tell us what you think about this afternoon's show, because it's just been an important topic, especially what's going on right now. So, yeah, everyone just introduce yourself. David, let's go start with you.
Hello, everyone. This is David. It's great to be here to chat with the guys and with Crystal. I'm sure we're in for a great time. Sit back and relax.
Corey Black.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Corey Black. I have a channel, Black Made Media, where I discuss relationship, family topics, love, dating, all interests. So, as you can find me.
It's J Dubs.
Hey everybody, this is JDUB, YouTube's #1 commenter, and I'm here for my friend Crystal to show the support, and I'm just getting up from my birthday celebration, so I'm just here for you and see what I can contribute.
And that was going to be my next thing. Bless J Dubs in the comments. Just throw some hearts up, throw some gold hearts up for J Dubs, and just show him some love for coming up after his birthday festivities. So, y'all, thank you, Juicy and Monique and Jada. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it. And this is going to be the last time I have it this early with everybody coming in. I know Black, he had 2 shows last night. I was in the comments listening to Black last night, and J Dubs was having a good time. So, but I really want to get into this because, we're all watching Maps. And it's so funny because J Dubs calls Katina the Stepford wife. And then and so I was like, that is so interesting. And I can't wait till the street preacher comes in because he has a different take on it altogether. So I really want to get y'all opinion on this. And first, David's the married one in J Dubs, are you married?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. So so did you prepare yourself before you got married? What was your preparation? And I'm going to say this, David. Let's say you've already, said this is the woman I want to marry. How long before you met your wife, said this is the woman I'm going to marry, until you guys actually walked down that aisle and jumped that broom? How long was it, David?
um, so,
And I feel like you probably had a very traditional celebration.
well, okay, I'll give you guys sort of like a background. So, yes, I did prepare to get married. So I'm a Christian. I grew up in a Christian family. My parents were Christians, matter of fact, pastors. So I grew up in a Christian setting. My parents were married for more than 20 years and things like that. So for me, it was kind of like you've got to prepare for it, and I've always been a logical person. So in my mind, everything you need to do in life, I think you need to prepare for it going into it. So I've always prepared for marriage in that sense. I met my wife when I was doing my PhD. So I'm a doctor of chemical engineering, and I work in the energy sector, in the renewable energy space for a couple of years now. Been doing that. So I met my wife when I was doing my PhD, and she was also doing her PhD at the time. Now I had a love interest, you can call it. She was Nigerian and she was in Ukraine. So I'm Nigerian originally. So we were talking on phone and all those kind of things. I met her through a friend, and we were vibing. Everything was good and all those kind of things. In fact, I was helping her walk her way to coming to where I was, so we can be together. But some things happened, and it wasn't possible for her to come over and all those kind of things. And at the same time, then I met my now wife, and we were just talking and vibing it out, and I knew she liked me. We met on campus and things like that, and then we dated for about 6 months to 1 year, and then we just went on a trip to Zimbabwe. My wife is from Zimbabwe, so we went there just to visit. And immediately I got there, I met the dad. We started talking and all those kind of things. He was very happy to see me. There was no talk of, oh, he's coming to propose or anything like that. It's just conversations, and we just met and all those things. And after vibing it out, meeting the whole family and all those things, I felt like, what, yeah, it makes sense. I think I can go ahead and propose. But in terms of deciding if she was the one I was going to marry, it took a few months of us dating and getting to know each other. I'd say about 4 to 6 months, getting to know each other. And one of the things that kind of showed that I did to kind of show her that was that at the time I was building my like we say, building your bread and all those kind of things. So I said, you know what? When I got to that point where I knew I could get married to her, I said, you know what, let's open an account together, and we'll call it a joint account. And whatever percentage is fine from whatever you make, you put into that account, and whatever percentage I put in that account. So we opened that account. We had our individual accounts, but we opened that account and we started saving money into that account. And when we started, she noticed that I had like a lot of money saved already, but she didn't have a lot saved. She had just a couple of $1,000 and stuff. And she was like, one day she asked me, she's like, are you not afraid like I'm just gonna take all the money and run away? I'm like, nah, I'm not scared of that, because I just basically in my mind, I've known you and I know who you are, and I know that you're not gonna do this. I mean, but on the other hand, you can't just withdraw the money from an account and go. It's a joint account. The bank is gonna call me and what have you. So don't get it twisted. But the point is, I trusted her and I got to know her, and I knew that I wanted to be with her and all those things. And then 9 months to 1 year after, then we got married. So that's sort of like the background of that. I'll let you get to the other guys, but if you have any questions specifically about my case, I'll tell you.
So that is really interesting. So I get the 9 months and 1 year, but the fact that you prepared yourself financially, and you opened an account within a couple of months after meeting her, a joint account.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
honestly,
Exactly about 4 to 5 months.
about 4 to 5 months, you guys opened up a joint account to save based on percentage of your income. And her asking that question, I don't necessarily, I'm not surprised that she asked that question, but it's a joint account. Like you said, bank's going to call me if something goes wrong. But that's interesting. Within 4 to 5 months, you open that account, and within 2 years, you guys got married. So what happened with the person, the previous girl that you were kind of dating, but you guys couldn't travel?
Yeah.
Kind of fell off?
Yeah, so what happened was she was in Ukraine. She was, doing the medical doctor thing, doing like after the study, you do like an attachment or something like that in the hospital. So she was doing that after studying there, and we were talking, and I was like, if you're gonna be with me, we need to get on the same program, and we have to be in the same place. I'm not into. I've done long distance dating stuff before, I'm not down for that, and then she was like, yeah, I'm happy to join your program and, be on your time and all those things. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll help you work it out for you to come where I am and all those things. But then at some point, her dad started saying this and that. And then, she started backpedaling. Then I'm like, what? I don't have time for this. I was already in my mid 30s by then, a couple of years ago. And for me, I'd already made a goal in my mind that when I get to 28, this is where I want to be. When I get to 30, this is where I want to be. So I had a plan for my life in that sense. So when I saw that she was backpedaling like that, I'm like, I can't be with you, and you're doing all this. You don't know today, you don't know tomorrow. Let's cut our losses, and move forward, that kind of thing. And that was how we kind of just decided, what, let's just forget about it. But the whole saving thing was kind of an advice I got from an uncle of mine who is a much senior person in the uh, oil and gas industry. He's a big brother to me, and he was just telling me, like, from a Christian point of view. And I always say this whenever I tell people this, that this is not a general opinion, it's just personal opinion. He said, if you can share your body with a woman, from a Christian perspective, if you can share your body with a woman, how much more the money that you make, that you can actually lose anytime and you can make back. But your body is so valuable, your body is so important from a Christian point of view, that you can't just share that with just anybody. So if you can share your body with someone, how much more the money that you make, you can make that back. If you lose 500,000 tomorrow, it's money. Yeah, you paying, you get mad about it, but you can make it back. But your body is such a sacred temple, you can't just share that with just anybody. And so I say, okay, when I meet someone that I've known that I want to get married to, after a couple of months, then I would like for us to financially save towards our future, because I believe that ownership is very important. It's something that Tyler Perry always says, that ownership is very important. The only way we as Black people can make commands on what we want, on how we want things done, all this, natural hair, dreadlocks, whatever. If you have a Fortune 500 company as a Black man, you can decide everybody wears natural hair if you want. Everybody can wear whatever traditional clothes you want. Everybody can do whatever. But in the media and all these things, even if we make movies or whatever, the company is owned by the white man, and he can tell you this is how he wants things run, and you can't do anything about it. So, saving financially for our future as Black people, saving and starting businesses towards ownership, I think is the way forward to solving many of the problems that we have, as opposed to always talking about slavery and slavery and slavery. So for me, my mindset then was, I need someone that we can build a future together, and I said we need to save towards our future. It doesn't matter if we be together or not. If it doesn't work out, fine. We have the receipts. You take whatever you put into the account. I take whatever I put into the account. Adios, amigos. We go our way. We're all good. But if we're going to have a future together, we need to save towards it. But the reason why I could have all these conversations was because, like I said, I had left my mid-20s. I was my mid-30s, and I was at that phase of life that I planned to settle down. I have, young guys who are in their 25s who look up to me and things like that. And they're not trying to do all that because they want to build their bread up before they can start thinking of such things, so they're not going to talk about such things with a woman. You're just going to be dating them for a couple of time. When they get to that phase, when they feel like their bread is up and their age is where they want it to be, then they can start talking about, okay, let's get settled. And then you might start talking about all those kind of things, and that's why the whole marriage minded thing is like not just a whole through the life thing. It's like life is in phases and people are in stages of life. So as they go along, things kind of change.
Right. I want to go to It's JDUBs. And how did you prepare yourself, or did you prepare yourself before you got married? In what way?
Well, I'm totally thrown off by. I thought we were talking the state of it. I can take my whole segment on this thing about how I got married, but I'll just go right in how I do go off of just the top.
We're going to get in detail too, but go ahead.
But more so, I didn't prepare traditionally. I knew my wife from childhood, and we reconnected through Facebook many years ago. I knew her family, she knew my family, and we just decided to be together, and had not previously been romantically tied together before, but we just decided, hey, we're a wonderful fit. Our birthdays are 5 days apart, and we went there and built a life just from there. There was no preparation. I wasn't planning to get married. Didn't think I was going to get married, but
so at what age were you at that point where you're like, you know what? I heard this Jagged Edge song in my head. Like we might as well do it. When
well, this was in my early 30s. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and now I want to go to to Black because and I feel like, you know, JDUB, you said the same thing around that age where you're like, no, I'm not playing around. You know, David was in his late 20s, you were in your early 30s, and Black, you're not married, right? But you have a daughter.
Yes, yes.
And you had said something last night that was so interesting to me, and that when a man talks about preparing himself to get married and talks to a woman about that marriage, that structure, he talks about what is his structure for you in his life. So talk about that a little bit in detail.
Okay.
His structure is foundation. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a conversation needs to be had. You know, if you're going to get married, is my personal view on it is that a man should know what kind of husband he's going to be. He should be able to relate that to his wife, to his future wife, and she should be able to relate what kind of wife she wants to be in a relationship. He should be able to have a structure as far as how he plans to build with his partner, a structure for finances, a structure for everything. Like if you're marriage minded, those things cross your mind. And so when those things cross your mind, you start to put those plans together. And when you put those plans together, you hold on to your plan. Then you find a woman who is willing to buy into your plan. If she doesn't buy 100%, that's perfectly fine. No one's going to like 100% of your plan. But if she's willing to compromise on certain areas, you're willing to compromise on certain areas, I think it can work out that way. But the key point is just having a plan, period. Because otherwise, you're just out here dating just to date. I just told ladies last night, that's one of the ways you can find out if a man is serious about you or serious about getting married. If he's serious about you, he tells you his plan. You don't really like his plan, then you know that's not the one for you. You know, you're not wasting your time. He's not wasting his time. But I think you're being honest to yourself about what you want by asking that type of question to find out if that's the one you need to be with.
So what were those like top four? And I wrote down three before we got on here, but you know, I wrote down like financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Those were my top three that I thought of right then and there. But so what are those top four? I want to know from each of you in that structure that you need. Let's go to David first.
So, do you mean like what I need in a wife
Yes.
before?
Yeah, that was what are the top four things in your opinion? Because I don't want people coming for y'all. In your opinion, a marriage-minded woman should have.
Well,
Actually,
so
let me go to what were the top four things that you as a man had first, and then let's talk about the women.
okay. So I always give my opinion based on I can tell you from a socialist mindset, because I understand that everyone is not a Christian, so I'm not trying to bore people with my beliefs and whatever. And I can tell you from a Christian point of view, sometimes when people who are Christian point of view listen to me talk, sometimes they feel like, oh, you're talking to whatever socialist or whatever. But I just like to give that preface. But for me, I think the first thing to me is when the Bible says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing, this presupposition is that you are a wife to be found. And the question there then becomes, as a woman, are you a wife? And I guess that's the whole definition we're trying to come around. For me, personally, I want someone who is intellectual. And that's partly because I'm an intellectual, I'm someone who likes to study. And me choosing a partner, I want someone who's not just a pretty face, but someone who can also impart knowledge to my kids. So in saying that, I want someone who is, smart in that sense. You don't have to be, the smartest woman or whatever, all those kind of things. Just basically you have to have some form of education. You don't have to necessarily even, have the level of education that I do or whatever. You just need to be someone who is educated and have an open mind, because education opens your mind. It doesn't necessarily make you rich or whatever. It just gives you a different point of view on how to approach things. And I understand that everyone is not educated, like going to college and all those kind of things. So that's not necessarily what I mean. I just mean that you have to have an open mind. You have to be intellectual. And then another thing is that you need to know how to be now, when you use the word domesticated, a lot of women get offended because they kind of feel like, oh, are you talking about a domesticated animal or whatever? No, that's not what I mean. I just want someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to taking care of a home front. And I think it's one of the things that, growing up as a Nigerian, growing up as an African, your parents will teach you, how to be sort of, how to take care of a home, and that involves cooking and cleaning and things like that. If I need to be precise, that's something that I look forward to. Another thing that I look forward to is someone who is fit. I'm feminine, and when I say fit, I'm feminine. I mean someone who is. Personally, I don't like someone who's obese. Just my preference. I'm not giving anybody any map. It's just my preference. I like someone who's fit, and that means you take care of your health in that sense. And it's not just being fit because I want to look at a doll or whatever. Also, for your health, it's important that you be fit. So that's number 3. Obviously, I want someone who's a Christian because I'm a Christian and my faith is important to me. That's number 4. And then I also want someone who comes from a good home, a well-structured home, because the way you are with your family, the way you were raised, I think shapes how you view life and how you view a lot of things, So these are the things that are
Keep going,
One
David.
thing-
Go ahead.
yeah, so those are the things that I'm looking for, that I looked for in my partner at the time. And I just say lastly, someone who's willing to get on my program, or someone who's willing to work with me, someone who's willing to go along with the plan that I have, because I believe that that's what a man is supposed to make. A man is supposed to provide, supposed to protect, supposed to be a priest, if you're talking in the sense of a Christian, and then to be someone who makes plans and makes the goals, visions, direction for the family. Where are we going? How are we getting there? What are we doing? So that's basically it for me. And so yeah, so that's basically what I look for in that sense. I don't know if I've answered your question.
You did, in a roundabout way. You actually, and that was the first question I asked. What are you looking for in a wife? What are the 4 things you're looking for in a wife? I did ask you, what, as a man, what were your 4 things as well? But we're gonna go back to that. I really want to go to JDUB first, and then so what were your 4 things that you provided as a just top 4? No chronological order, no order of importance. Just what were your 4 things, JDub, and then what were the things that you looked for in a potential wife?
Well, the 4 things that I definitely look for in a potential wife is first, her belief in God, because I've dealt with had previous relationships and I tried to make those work and I absolutely could not make those work. So like going back to the reference of Love is Blind, when Shayna went with Kyle and he was an atheist now. And I know myself that I don't even like to speak to people who don't believe in God. That's just me. That's my personal belief. That's where I'm at. That's a non-negotiable for me. So that's first and foremost. And I guess to say a man with my type of temperament, with the ability to leave. I need a woman who's willing to compromise with me, not to rule over, but a woman who's open, again, to take my direction and work with me. That was very huge, because sometimes I met people in the past where they were very rigid, they were inflexible, and that was a big hindrance in the relationship. I would say another one would be a person who is very compassionate, because at the time I did have a daughter from a previous relationship. So I would need her to understand and just have the room to show love to my daughter, as well as just, I guess when you come together, you blend families as well. So I want someone who will be open to feel and be a part of my family as well as them. And I would say number 4 is just in a sense, a person who's like really about love, who's like very intentional about loving. That's like very important to me. Like my love languages are based in quality time and physical touch. So,
Mhm.
um, of course, we need the vision and the drive for marriage, but to me, it's nothing without that foundation of love. It's like this is where we started. So it has to be, no matter what we achieve, no matter which direction we're going, we have to focus on loving each other at all times.
I love that. And I really want to know, so your top things, I know that you said you knew your wife now from a previous, well, from years from childhood, and then you
Hmm.
got reintroduced to her. So what were your top things that you said, okay, I think I'm ready? Like, did you think I'm doing, let's just do this? Or did you think, okay, I have the house, um, I'm ready and I'm financially, whatever happens, we'll get through it?
Well, yeah. Like I said, I didn't come from the backgrounds where I would say like, yes, we've had structure. I didn't have a father figure at the time, so everything was more learning on the go and looking
Right.
for a partner who was willing to build with me, and we created our goals together. Of course, I had a direction, but also I had to get her on board to what we were doing, and especially with both of us just starting out with as being single parents. I
Mhm.
gave her the vision and let her know ahead of time. I would just throw in a scenario to say, well, where we're looking to buy a house, but they're not, I guess, giving us the rate or the finance that we need. I said, let me tell you something at this point. Give it maybe 5 years. Any creditor that you wish you will need to come to, they'll be at your feet. And that's the promise I made to you. I said, we're going to build this together and we're going
Okay.
to do this the right way. And that's how it just came about. We just was setting goals and continue to achieve them and to achieve them. And that was the more focus. Someone who was willing to build, someone who was not complacent, and also who could, again, I guess, be a part of my direction that I had for us.
Okay. And so, Black, what are your 4 things that you bring to and y'all don't come at me, but you bring to the table, and what are 4 things that you're looking for in that woman, in that lady that you are going to marry?
Yeah, so for me, it boils down to the things that I want, that I'm looking for, the same things that I'm willing to give. I don't ask anything of my partner that I'm not willing to give in return. So
Mhm.
one, very, very important is her relationship with God. I will respect her relationship with God. I don't have to know the intimate details about her relationship with God because it's their relationship. But as long as her relationship is moving in a positive way and moving towards building and respect, loyalty, that's fine with me. Um, the next thing I would say is her ability to compromise is very important to me. It's the same thing I offer as well, because things not going to always go the way we wanted to go individually, but we got to work together. And so I would say that the understanding of partnership, the real true understanding of what partnership means, and she needs to be very self-aware. To be self-aware, know the type of love that you're asking for, and know it when you see it. Because you can say you want something, and you see someone else's relationship, and you say, "Oh, I want that relationship," but you don't know how they got there. You don't know what it took to get them there. So I think you have to be
Mhm.
very self-aware to say, "Okay, I want to be loved this kind of way." And then when a man comes along and shows you that you should actually be able to identify it and be able to appreciate what he's offering you. Definitely would say I would need a leader, a manager. I would say my job is to lead the relationship as head of household, and her job, in all due respect, is to manage. I think we work together that way. There'll be some instances where she does not need to come to me and ask me or talk to me about anything or whatever, confirm me about anything, because we have that mutual understanding. We have that bond with each other, where she knows what I will be thinking in terms of certain things. And I think it's important for us to be able to work together, just all around work together in the respect factor. So yeah, those are the 4 for me.
Wow. And so those same things is what you bring to the table as well.
Absolutely.
I love that, but I'm going to ask, you have a daughter, I know, and JDUB has a daughter. So how long before you introduced your current wife to your daughter, JDUB? What was the if you don't mind me asking, yeah, what was the deciding factor to say, okay, you can meet my daughter? and I feel comfortable. Was there a thought, or you just said, you know what, I've known her for a while and I trust her? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say it was on a different segment with me because my wife at the time had knew my family, even
Okay.
like I said, when I was in high school, and it was just more so a rekindling of friendship. So I felt very comfortable, and it didn't take long at all. I'm gonna just say more so a few months. I could tell that I hadn't had this type of feeling before ever in a relationship. So
Mm.
it felt right, and it just moved very naturally. It wasn't even like really a thought.
That's important. Black, I'm going to ask you the same question. How long, with your potential wife, do you think you want to take before you have her meet your daughter?
Really, with me, it's not a certain time frame. Like, I can't say 6 months. I can't say a year. It's really the vibe for me. When I
Okay.
feel like my daughter is safe around someone, when I feel like it's okay for her to be around, and I feel like this person is going to be able to add some value to her life, just
Hmm.
like she's done for me, then I'll introduce. Yeah, I'll introduce.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of parents do have that fear of not wanting to introduce, their kids to everybody who they date, whatever the case is. And I respect that. I wholeheartedly respect that. My mindset is a little bit different when it comes to that because I know my daughter is at an age now where she's starting to like boys. The boys are starting to like her. So we have to have those type of conversations about dating guys and, being hurt and then knowing that, there's going to be someone else you want to date and they're going to make you feel better, treat you with respect and loyalty and having those conversations. So because of that, if my daughter is 13 years old and she's only seen with one person, that thought process for her is going to be like, okay, only one person is going to come every 13 years. One person is going to come every 6 years. But I want her to know, this is just my mindset. I want her to know that not so much that it's fun to just have someone come in and out of the house, but let them know that there are good people out here. So I'm only introducing my daughter to good people. So I want to know there's more than that out there. So this is my take on it.
That is so important because as a woman, as a female, we have issues with that. We want to make sure, and we don't want that our children to just be introduced to anybody. You know that is that is our man, and boys and girls. That it's important that as your mother that we trust this person with you. So that's important. I know we veered off for a second, but I just thought that was that was a good segue into that question. What are you, because we women sometimes we don't ask those qualifying questions, and I know that David said that you within a couple months you met your wife's father and everything. What questions are you asking? What questions did you ask when you first met your girlfriend and then wife? What questions did you ask first, David?
So most of the questions I asked was surrounding what she had as a plan for her life. What did she want to do with her life? What did she want for her life? And the reason why I ask many of those questions is because, like I said before, I want someone who has a direction, who has a focus or a purpose for their life, someone who is intellectual or smart. Again, doesn't that you don't have to have some college degrees and all those kind of things. You just need to be smart, so that you can actually impact some knowledge to our kids or our offspring. I don't just
Mhm.
want you for a beautiful body. So most of the questions I ask are surrounding what do you want to do with your life? What's your plan? What's your what do you want to do? How do you, and then some of the things that, for example, like have been a homemaker or have been someone who can take care of the family. Many of those things kind of unraveled as we got to know each other. So I grew up in the typical African home, and I have two other brothers, and my sister was born like 10 years after I was born. So for a long time, my mom was like, kitchen is for the don't come to my kitchen, whatever, you boys just go play with your toys and all those kind of things. But then, after 2 years, 3 years, she didn't have a girl, and it didn't happen. She was like, okay, fine, you guys can come in. So just going off of what Black was saying as well, I cook very well, I clean, because That's how I grew up. My mom taught us all those things because she's like, okay, fine, I don't have a girl. Anyway, you guys just come and learn and all those kind of things. So I learned how to cook, I learned how to clean. So I'm not asking for something I won't offer as well, and that's something I do today, when my wife is not in the position or when she's away or whatever, I cook, it's not a problem. Even when she's there, I cook sometimes. But the point is, some of those things I kind of discovered them when we were dating because, I invite her over to my house. That's how I knew that she wasn't like a spicy person like me because I made her a spicy noodle and then I was going to make the girl choke and pass away. But, and then I figured, okay, fine. She doesn't like spicy. And then she cooked for me on another day, and I saw how she moved. I saw how she did things. I saw the way she carried herself, and all those kind of things. And I say this essentially because we actually do have a friend at the moment, myself and my wife, who's been looking to get married for a long time, but she's a pharmacist. She does very well for herself financially. She can cook, she can clean, she doesn't, and she's just all about, in quote, chasing the bag, that kind of thing and whatever, And my wife always tried to tell her, like, how are you preparing yourself for being a wife and all those kind of things, and things like that. So, and then most of the other questions that I kind of asked are things I kind of found out, like JDUB's talked about, someone who's a Christian, those are not things that you ask a Christian about. Are you a Christian? And then, whatever. I mean, you can ask them, but you actually get better more out of that conversation if you watch them and see how they move as a Christian and see, okay, are they really a Christian or do they just fill that on a form if they are asked about their religion? So I observed those kind of things. So most of the things that I really wanted, I kind of observed and looked at. Like that, but more of the other things are just, what's your plan, what's your goal, what's your direction, how do you move, and I can observe that and I can see, okay, do we align, and then see, okay, are you someone who's willing to be flexible, like the guy said, take some directions from me, go along with what I'm saying, what I'm asking to do, and things like that. It doesn't matter if we're all going to New York, but some of us are taking the train and some of us are taking, flight or whatever, So, and that's the essential point where men say, we want a cooperative wife or a supportive wife or a flexible woman. The reason is just that whole point of when we say, let's do it like this, understand that the goal at the end of the day is for us to get there. How we get there might be different.
Right.
You understand? But understand that I'm the leader here, I'm leading the family. And that means I take responsibility if things fall apart. So it's not necessarily a fantastic position to be in because every is a shoulder that wears it, So, but willing to listen, willing to follow, willing to take direction and all those kind of things. It's pretty much something we just look forward and watch out in those dating times. And when we can see those things then.
And I want to go back to something you said earlier. I'm going to ask Black and then JDUB. Is the traditional woman / maid important to you as a husband? Cook, clean, manage the home. Black, is that important? I know that you didn't say one of those four in that four thing list, but is that important to you?
I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. The deal breaker for me will be if she doesn't have the desire to learn to do things that I would like for her to do or like for her to learn. So I do want a woman who knows how to cook and clean and do all that stuff, but it's not something that's like you need to do this every day. You need to, it's not like a job that I'm giving her an additional job to what she has to do, her 9 to 5, whatever the case is. So for me, if she doesn't know how to do it, I can marry a woman who has a desire to want to learn, doesn't mind reading a cookbook, doesn't mind cleaning up, those type of things. But it's important for, because people are not always going to be ready-made for you. That's not going to be the case in all cases. Sometimes you want to see that person put forth that effort to be a better person or to be a better fit, a better wife, a better husband. It's all about getting better. So it never stops. Like I said, I want someone to inspire both ways. I want to be able to inspire her. I want her to be able to inspire me. So inspire me to be a better husband. You inspire me to be, and I inspire you to be a better wife. If I'm doing that, if I'm doing my job right, she's going to want to cook for me. She's going to want to do things for me. She's want to make sure I'm taken care of. So that's my job, you know. So I don't think it's a deal breaker, but I think it's definitely a nice bonus to have.
JDUB, same question. That traditional woman, that traditional mate, is that important to you as a husband? Cook, clean, manage the home?
I definitely wouldn't say the traditional woman, in a sense, was important to me because I didn't have a marriage that like really started traditionally. In my younger days, I did assume that those were the things that you like a wife was supposed to do because my wife was already in that type of mode. However, I can say from then until now, I learned that those aren't actually, well, I would say requirements, but just, I guess, like skill sets, or as Black said, the motivation for them to want to do that for you and to provide those things for you. But as I've gotten older and more mature and learned that, I take the Chris Rock mindset of marriage. He said, you're like, marriage is like a band. Sometimes you got to play the tambourine, sometimes you play the drum, sometimes you sing. And that's what I had to learn. Now off of YouTube, I'm an excellent cook. I probably can cook just as good as my wife now. So when I had more time to do that, I could fill in those gaps when she became more busy. And I subscribe to that because I don't believe there's let's say things that you should not or could not do, because if I'm doing something, I need my wife to step in, I expect her to do so, and she does the same way. It's not, to me, a tradition, because we're not living in a traditional world.
Right.
To say that, especially how we live, I would say a lot of us, even though we don't know it, these luxurious lives where you have to provide private school for 3 different children and all those things. We say, I'm the man, I'll take care of everything. That's unrealistic to me. Why? Because the cable bill's $350 with the internet and all that. And we got 3 different cars and all these kind of things going on, $300 gas bills. Me taking care of all of that, I do need a partner in the sense, but I have a mindset of providing. So I'm going to grind and push and do all I can. Of course, it's not 50-50, but you know, I don't do anything traditional at this point. I had to learn that, though. I did at the beginning, I had a traditional mindset, but I understand like that's not really how it goes. That's not fair because my wife isn't a stay-at-home mom. So why do I expect her to cook all the meals, clean up, and do all those things? So I have to do my part and whatever that requires for both of us.
And I want to go back to David because something you said, because you had that in your list, but then as well, I know that you've been on live with us sometimes, and you got because your wife is working and you got the baby in the background. So was that hard for you to make that adjustment in your assumption? Because being an African man, or being traditional, that traditional mindset is instilled in you. So was that hard to make that adjustment?
Yeah, so I think sometimes, we always use these terminologies about, traditional and modern. But I think for the most part, I think most of us are modern men and women, not just women. We like to use the modern women in kind of a negative, uh, form. But I think even the men nowadays are modern men. And why I say modern men is because we've gone past, like JDUB said, we've gone past that time of the woman stays in the home in the village and cooks all the food, and then the man goes and hunt and bring back whatever. The woman doesn't do any work at all. We've gone past that because life has changed, things are different. You need a lot of financial capability, and as a matter of fact, the average American home cannot survive on one income, because if you want to go into the whole part of blacks and whites and all those kind of things, the average black man makes around $40,000 to $50,000 a year. So how are you going to survive on that and do other things like as been mentioned, take your kids to school and all those kind of things? There's a small fraction of men who make in 6 figures and things like that. Life is a bit more flexible for them. And then there's another group of men who make in the top end of the 6 figures, like your 500 and 300 and whatever. For those men, yeah, we might categorize them as men of means and whatever you want to call those terminologies. But for me, so I wasn't looking for a woman who cooks every day and every night. That's not what I was looking for. And when I say that, I'm not saying that's what I'm looking for. I'm just saying I want a woman who can cook. And when I say a woman who can cook and who can clean, I mean that you've learned how to do that either during your single time from YouTube or during your girl age by your mom or whatever. And the reason why I say that is because I need that willingness. Now, to give you another backstory, my wife is Zimbabwean, so she never knew how to cook Nigerian food. But
Say it again.
my,
Your wife was
my wife is from Zimbabwe in
okay.
Southern
Oh, so
Africa,
she didn't know how to cook your traditional food.
so she doesn't know how to cook my traditional food. And the way Africa works, Zimbabwe was a country that was more colonized than
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria. So they have a lot of white tonation between them. They eat like the regular white breakfast with egg and bacon and baked
I
beans and
totally
stuff
get
like
it.
that.
Being from the
Yeah,
South and growing up in the West, yeah. The where's the seasoning? So I get what
exactly. But for us, as Nigerians, or Nigeria basically got their independence earlier than most of those countries, and we were we're very cultural, we're very tribal. We have several tribes in Nigeria, so we eat our own food, we make our own food, we process our own food, and all those kind of things. So, and Nigeria is kind of like the giant of Africa and stuff like that because it's the biggest economy in Africa. So for when we met, a lot of things she didn't know how to cook that I like to eat as Nigerian food and things like that. And sometimes people think about it, but just imagine that you meet a guy tomorrow and then he says, "Oh, no more cornbread, no more uh, grains, no more." That's going to be crazy for you as a Black American, and that was kind of how it was for me. So, well, I had my aunt with me in the country that I was. So my wife was willing to learn from my aunt how to make those foods. Not because she knew I was going to get married to her. She was just interested in learning. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because when she was in school, she did courses on cooking and things like that. Um, they called it home economics in Africa. It is basically they just teach you how to cook and clean and all this kind of thing. So she did that course in school, and she loves that whole thing. So she was willing to learn, and she learned from my aunt and all those kind of things. But then I cook as well, so it wasn't like. And even now that we're married, she doesn't cook every day. I don't push her to cook every day. I don't need her. I mean, sometimes I tell her, don't worry, I'll cook.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I cook, and sometimes we go out and get food. Sometimes we DoorDash. So I'm saying so, and again, that is the modern man. You see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So, but then I remember one time Kojo did an interview with one of the ladies from Ready to Love, and she was saying even though she's doing very well in her job and she makes a lot of money and all those things, she wanted a man that if she wanted to stop working, she had that liberty to do that. Or if she wanted to stop a corporate job and go and start up something, she needed someone that was going to hold the family up while she did that. So listening to that, I say that because my wife was working several months and whatever ago, but she stopped working because she decided a job was too stressful for her and all those kind of things. She wanted to stay at home and whatever. And I said, okay, fine, that's all right. And I manage her own fund financially and things like that. So until then, now that is the situation, she's always like, no, don't worry, I'll cook for you. You have to walk in the morning, you have to do this, you have to do that, and things. So when I say, I want someone who can cook and clean, I'm not saying someone who is going to do that every day and every
Right.
night, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm very much a modern man myself, so
I hear what you're saying. It's that willingness, and it seems like you all are saying that same thing. I'm gonna go to the lady and son question, and then I think it's gonna transition into this my next question. So, why do you think, or do you think, that men today, the younger men in their let's say 25 to 35, are more hesitant to get married? I'm gonna start with JDUB.
Well, we talk about what's traditional, and the 25 and 35-year-old are in a totally different type of generational setting. And a lot of it's been impacted by social media, even by like the social skills, how people relate to each other. It's in a day and time. It's strange to actually sit and actually connect with a person. You can see people on their so-called dates, they're on their phones, or their date is a Netflix and chill kind of situation. They don't really drive to get to know a person at all. And not only that, within most places, the men to women ratio is so high. So we got a situation where it's about instant gratification. Men can pick and choose from whatever women they want without the commitments, and the women are going right along with it. So there's a marriage is something that's a day in and day out marathon. People don't even have the ability to commit to something like that, especially in that age bracket and the climate that they're living in right now. So that would just seem foreign to them. It's hard for people to talk to one another, connect on it, or even have the interest of getting to know one another. Everything is instant gratification, moving on to the next one. You say something wrong, we're done. I block you, ghost you. That's the mindset, and that's normal. People they're not used to approaching confrontation. And I don't mean in such a way like it's violent or aggressive, but they don't work out their problems. If something is arise, they're out. The one thing is gone wrong, they're done with you. So it's no way you can even build on that. Marriage is something that you built a foundation on. And that takes time, and that takes experiences, and that takes different obstacles getting over with that two people are willing to go through. We're much farther from that.
What do you think of that? Is that true? And it's sad because I agree with you, and it sounds kind of like laziness, but the more pedestrian word. But you're right to point that you got to drive to somebody. You got to actually take the time to get to know somebody. Black, what do you think of that? Why do you think that men are a little bit more hesitant to get married?
Yeah, for me, it's just it boils down to a lot of what JDUB said, but it's always that thought or that feeling that they're looking for the next best thing. Like you'll never be good enough. You'll be good enough for the moment, and that's as far as it's going to take you. And because that's the mindset of a lot of people now. I can't even say it's just younger people. I would say it's those who are older that still have that younger look, that youthful look. There's some 45-year-olds that look good out here. There's some 50-year-olds that look really good out here. They look younger. So because they look younger and they can get, certain things because of how they look, it's like, okay, what can I get from this guy? What can I get from the next guy? Is this guy willing to pay all my bills? Is this guy willing to treat me right? Is he going to take me out here and there and everywhere, traveling? So it's all about what I can get from you. And it's not so much about what I can give you and what you can give me and what we can do for each other. And I think that's the problem why a lot of men are losing a little bit of faith when it comes to marriage and being around marriage-minded women. But that's just my opinion.
Black, you mentioned this. You've mentioned this before. This fear of missing out is that, and for this fear of missing out. And honestly, I just said earlier that I was raised in California, and that's what I ran into with men. This fear of missing out. Oh yeah, she's real cool. All of these things. Bring a lot to the table. But what about the next woman? And what about the next person? What about the next person? So you think that the reason why I picked 25 to 35 is because, as the men have been stating, in that age range, that's when they've, finished school. That's when they've gone to start to make their money and start to want to settle down. David said he was in his late 20s. JDUB said he was in his early 30s. So that's why I picked that age range. But so you're saying that it doesn't matter. The age is really that fear of missing out, JDUB. I'm sorry, not JDUB, Black.
Yeah, and I think like what JDUB said, it comes back to social media. This wasn't a mindset before. Before social media, this was not the mindset. Now, older people are seeing young girls out here winning by doing X, Y, and Z, by having a nice figure, showing off their body. They say, well, I have a body. I can show it off too and get the same result. And that's what they're doing. And I'm not saying this is all women. I don't want that to be what's coming out. But I'm saying that when people see people winning that way, it's easy to recruit. The moment when you see that, that's a recruiting service at that point. So there needs to be more value into, what a man can do for you as far as beneficial for you outside of finances, because finances is just a tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to gain from a husband or a husband-minded man than just finances, getting things taken care of. So, yeah.
I think no, I both of what you go ahead, David.
No. I think I want to make a different point. So,
Go ahead.
okay, yeah. So I think so. I was discussing the topic with my wife. To say, because she was asking me, "Oh, you have one of your." She always make a joke like, I'm just YouTube sensation or whatever. I'm like, no. I just jump on people's lives and say what one or two things or the other. But so I think when I think about the whole discussion, I think one thing is very clear. Um, and this is how I look at it. I think men value or appreciate the contribution that women bring in a marriage setting or in a relationship setting. We like that person who is like our mom light, for lack of a better word, for that person who would take care of us for like just take care of us in that sense, someone who's going to be that soft place for us because we have to be that rock and that hard and that hustle and chase the bag, stack your paper kind of person. So we always appreciate that or want that soft place to have. But then I like to go back to the beginning, when I was growing up, as a little boy. And I think for many of us, we had things like sports cars, we had things like guns, we had things like Tetris, we had things like games, whatever, to play with as boys. But for my younger sister and for a lot of people in my age at that time, they played with Barbie dolls. The Barbie dolls even had some home set whereby there was a kitchen and whatever, and you prepare like you pretend like you're cooking. And the little girls, when they play in the sand, they do like they're making food and they're serving food and things like that. Like it was kind of like little girls are kind of raised to prepare towards becoming wives or prepare towards becoming a family or prepare towards being in a relationship where they kind of have that sense going on. And then the whole Disney and all those things also placated all those narratives with the and Netflix do a lot of documentaries on this. How the description of media and how stories are being told has created this fantastic. And then you also talk about the jewelry industry, talking about engagement rings and all those kind of things. All those things kind of played along that old narrative of, oh, woman meets man, they fall in love with each other, they marry each other and have a beautiful life, and all those kind of things. Oh, or the princess who was in trouble and then the prince came and saved her and whatever, and then the beauty and the beast. So all of those narratives played up from when we were little boys and little girls, kind of made women or girls mentally prepared towards getting married. If I ask a lot of the women, they will tell you that they've pictured their wedding day, they pictured their kids, their family, right from when they were young, right from when they were 15, 16, when they were even younger than that. Some of them even like already knew like how they want their wedding dress to look like. They knew what cake they want to do for their. No guys thinking of all those kind of stuff. We're not thinking of all those kind of things as men. We're thinking, Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and guns and shooting guns and hey, that was what we were doing and playing ball. You see what I'm saying? So we're both coming from two deep and the level of preparedness. That's what I'm talking about. Women have had this year long of mental preparation for the whole concept of marriage and things like that, but men have not. We're you see what I'm saying? So that already played into how the thing kind of shaped out. Like even like getting married, conversing with my wife, I'm like, yeah, just choose the cake, whatever cake you want, choose whatever wedding. I'm just like, yeah, fine, okay, yeah, this suit is good, let's go. I don't have time to be going from one store to another, testing different suits and asking my mother to tell me if this suit looks good. I don't have time. She had her mom and her whatever taking her this and that, choosing wedding dress, and you see what I'm saying. So our approach to all those things is different. But then the fact that we both want that, I want that soft place to land in a woman, and she has that wanting a man who's a leader and visionary and all those things. Those are two clear points. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So and then the second thing my wife said, just to round up, was that she said we as women contributed to this whole men not being marriage minded. And she said, especially in the Western country, because the same thing in Australia where I am, the whole concept of people moving in together, shacking it up, and all these kind of things created that whole concept of, what's the whole point of getting married? It's just a paper. Why do I need to get that? Because I've got everything I want now. So what's the point? And then the same way you have women who are scared of divorce and scared of being a baby mama and all those kind of things, there are men also who are scared of the family court system. Because you look at the case of Dr. Dre, it happened. Look at the case of Jeff Bezos, what happened? You didn't see any women channels saying, "Oh, what they did to Jeff Bezos is not good," or whatever, whatever, whatever. But you see the case of Mary J. Blige and Kendall, and you see the way Kendall is collecting alimony, and women are raising arms and say, "Oh, this is not fair. It's not." For years, men have been paying child support and paying all this. You see what I'm saying? But there's no, and many young guys that I know that I kind of mentor or whatever, who are engineers, who are doctors. They're like, you see, this is the shit. Why do we need to get involved in this and then get ripped off at the end of the day? And no one's gonna say anything, but everybody's up in arms for Mary J. Blige because, and then people are inviting her to the coffee, to the shows to come and talk
Right.
about. You see what I'm saying? So we have those things on both ends. That's the reality of it, and that's why a lot of men are like that.
And you just actually segued into my next question. I want to go to J Dubs first, and then Black. I'm going to go the next, go the opposite. So we talked. David just brought up Disney because this was one of my questions. In raising your kids, did you raise your children, or are you raising your children to be a wife? Or so, and I wish he was here. Uh, one of the people on Maria's channel says he raises his children to be a good Christian. He has a daughter, a good Christian, a woman, and then a wife. He's raising her to be a wife. Or um, is that how you're raising her as well? Because Disney, and just like as a we always talk about, as a Black woman, when we see a lot of models that don't look like us, it's harmful that we don't see that, so we feel like we can't step into that role. That's one thing. That's TV. That's Disney and everything, as David stated. Because I do think absolutely he has a point. But in the household, we look up to our dads. We look up to that father figure and that mother figure. So are you raising your children to be that wife or that husband, as well as everything else?
No, I don't believe in that because I focus on my children. I raise them to be self-sufficient, responsible adults.
Okay.
And then it's the next stage that you take to become a wife and husband. I tell you, you have all the time in the world to have a family. You need to build your life, do the things that you want, because really, to me, even considering marriage in such an early age, you're quite not ready to do so. And I'm not I mean, to go even deeper, I'm not a parent who encourages relationships as such a young person, because not only are you not ready, so many things can change and so many things can happen to you that will affect your adult life. I put the focus on being self-sufficient and learning yourself and find out what you want to do first, and then in that latter stage I can be a consultant in what a husband or a wife should be. And going into that is my focus first, because a lot of times we involve ourselves in relationships at way too early in stages of our lives. We're like skipping the stages. You really have to build yourself up first. We're constantly changing all the time, but to me, the earlier years are for self-development, not to
Right.
be a wife or a husband.
Black, what do you think of that? Are you raising your daughter to be a Christian, a wife? What are is that encompass that and a woman? What are you raising your daughter to be? And is wife in that?
Yeah, for me, it's self sufficient. Like J Job said, that's the most important thing. I wasn't raised to be a husband, and I'm thankful that I wasn't raised to be a husband. I was raised to be a good man, and so being a good man can transition to being a good husband. You find a woman who you can bounce off of and grow with. Most definitely, you can become a better person. So I say that because, let's say, for instance, my daughter never gets married.
Mm-hmm.
If she's a good person, she can stand on her own 2 feet, she can cook and clean for herself, she's self-sufficient, then she won't have a need for a husband. And that's how you make bad decisions, when you feel like you need something that you don't have. You rush into making decisions that are not good for you in the long run. So if she's comfortable where she is, it's like, okay, she can take a husband or not. It's completely up to her at that point. It's not a desperate need for one. So yeah, it's all about being self-sufficient for me.
David, are you, and you have a son, right? I know he's 3. Yeah, are you
Yeah,
raising
I've got a son.
Are you raising him to be a
I
husband?
Yes, and I think the guys are actually, I think JDUB's actually, I mean, I'm not trying to speak for him, but I think that I think men actually do not raise their daughters to be wives. I think their mothers or the woman who is in their life kind of does that, not necessarily by taking them to the kitchen every day to show them how to cook food, but the way she moves in that house is demonstrating something to that little girl. It's
Mm.
showing something to that little girl. The way she's listening to what J Dubs is saying, the way even the fact that she's leaning on him and his leadership in the house. I think that is a way by which a woman shows a little girl how to be a wife. That resemblance, that showing of that fact that this is what a man looks like. This is how you follow by a man and what a man says. When she asked her mom something, or the woman in her life something, and the woman in her life says, "Oh, let's go and ask daddy. What does daddy say?" You see what I'm saying? That is
Mhm.
teaching her something. It doesn't necessarily have to be, all the traditional whatever kind of sense. You see what I'm saying? So, and I think, I agree with the guys. It's important for them to be, yeah, models a wife. I think it's important for them to be self-sufficient human beings and citizens in the country, and obviously that involves them, going to school, learning how to read, learning how to speak well, and all those are very important things. And do I teach my son how to be a husband? Yes, I do. In the way I model it, in the way I see every morning he sees me, I'm on my grind. I prepare to go to work. I go to work. He sees me at the door. He greets me goodbye. That's showing him that this is what a man does. A man
Mhm.
provides for the family. A man goes to work and try to make the bread. So by doing those things, by demonstrating those things, we're showing them how to be that kind of a person. And then as she grows older, in the case of a girl, the woman in her life begins to tell her more details about how to be a wife. Like the guy said, what's the point teaching a little girl or 5 years old or whatever how to be a wife at this age? That's just distraction. She needs to be on her purpose, on her focus. But as she grows older and start getting to that age and what have you, she starts learning. But even as being in that house, like has been said, she's been shown by the woman there, modeled how to be a wife, in my opinion.
I love that, and because my follow-up question was like, what if your wife wanted to be a trauma surgeon, and you're raising her to be a wife, but then she's working all night and too tired to have the dinner on the table for you. There's going to be some discrepancy there, and we shouldn't have to, as Black says, dim our light to make sure that we are. I like cooking and doing those things, but at the same time, I should be able to help produce a film and make sure that dinner's on the table if I want to, um, and still have that helpmate with me as well. So it's we should be able to dream, and we should be able to know our self-worth as well. So I think that that's important. And when you say you're raising them to be a wife or raising them to be a mother, that's a hard. Yes, you're raising them to be those things, and I don't actually think that that's a bad thing that you're raising them to be those things. But are they? What if they want to be something that doesn't necessarily uh, have the dinner on the table at 6 p.m. every night? Where is that compromise, as David was talking about earlier? I want to ask a fun question. What about these women that are now asking the man to marry them? What do you guys think of that? I'm going to start with JDub.
No, I don't. I don't particularly believe in that. I believe you can maybe have some discussions about it, but because marriage is, even though it's a partnership the person individually has to be dedicated to that commitment. And I would think that because a husband has a vision that includes his wife, that woman has to fit in. The woman asking you may not fit into that realm. So I would think that for sure. I don't believe that. Like, well, we should get married. Normally, if that's how it's going, it's kind of unbalanced. So I don't really. Let's say I'm in traditional in that way. I believe
Right.
a man will really ask a woman to be married, not so much the woman. We might discuss it or think about it or throw it around but no, I think it's the man who has to ask.
Black, what do you think of that? The women that are now asking the men to marry them.
Oh. About women who ask men to marry them.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I see that as a sign of missed signals for that man, to be honest with you. To me, if my woman were to tell me, hey, Corey, I want you to marry me. Will you marry me? I should feel ashamed of myself. I should really feel ashamed of myself because I've missed some signs somewhere along the way that said, yo, bro, this is way too long. When it's that long, that's a problem. So yeah, I'm against it. Don't do that for me. Don't come to me with that. It's actually embarrassing. It's embarrassing for that man. So I say no. I don't like it.
I agree with that. Well, what's so funny is what you just said is if she were to tell me, and as you just said, it kind of puts you in that position. Oh, so she's telling me that we're getting married, and elaborate on that. That you said that you would feel embarrassed, but would you feel emasculated? What would that do to you if she were to? You said, "Tell me."
Yeah. Well, what I remember was asking me as far as being the proposal goes. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that when I say embarrassed by that means that I've missed signs along the way that she was actually ready for this step, or I missed signs that I was not fulfilling something that she wanted me to fulfill. That's where the embarrassment comes in. It's not because I have a woman proposing to me. It's because I missed the signs, and I missed the signs so badly that she felt the need to go take it this far. Because I mean, that's years of missing that signs to me. So
Right. David, what do you think of that narrative right now?
I agree. I agree with Black. I think yeah. I think that says something about the guy as well. To me, it shows that he doesn't have a plan, or it shows that he's not moving the way he should be moving.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if for a woman to get to that point, except she's being outrageous, by doing that, 2 months in or whatever, because she's in a hurry to have a baby or whatever, all those kind of things. If she's just moving the way she should move, I don't think I think that comes down to the guy himself. That comes down to him, having some failure on his part on what he should do. However, I don't think it's bad for a woman to show to a man that she's at that point in her life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's bad for her to show that. I think it is okay for a woman to say, you know what, this is what I'm looking for. This is this is the point I'm at my life. Like I said, many of those 22, 25-year-old guys who are still trying to bring their bread up, that's the phase they are in their life. When
Mm-hmm.
you're in your 35, when you're in your 40s, and you're whatever, and this is what you're looking for, I say you should be upfront about that. Of course, I'm not saying go on the first date and say, you know what, I'm looking for a husband. Are you going to marry me or not? Let's call it a date. No, you know, go on a date, get to know each other and whatever. But then, but then, as time goes on, make clear your direction. Where are you at? This is what I'm looking for. This is my. And then if that's in the works for him, then yeah. Otherwise, you might be wasting your time with a man who's actually not willing to get married.
Right. And it's so funny. Lady in the Sun, you said Halle Berry asked David Justice to marry her. Do you remember that? I do, and they lasted what, 2 years? So, yeah. So I want to ask a question, and I'm gonna start with JDUB because this is very interesting. How can we draw the balance? How can we as women draw the balance between submissive and self-sufficient. And I say self-sufficient because sometimes if a woman says that she's an independent woman, that just like men start running. But that submissive, but we're still that modern, I guess, that woman that's out there doing her own thing, but still be that submissive woman to her husband and to her man.
With that, I think it's a case by case basis because all men don't have the same mindset or temperament. Some men actually like their women to, I guess, take charge or be more in the forefront. And for some of us, a lot of that would not work. So I would just say it would be more so. That's how, like what I said, with a man finding a wife, he will know who's a good fit. If myself, I wouldn't want a woman who is so independent and inflexible. I need a partner that we can work together and who's willing to take direction, as well as, like Black said, that manage thing. Because a lot of times I'm not here, she does have to make executive decisions that align with what our goals are, even without me. So it just all depends on case by case basis. But more so, I my personal self, I look for someone who's willing to be flexible and compromise, who can take direction, as well as I would say lead or take the forefront in cases that need be.
Okay, so submissive is not necessarily the right word for you, as far as I like this flexible thing. I did not expect that. So that's good. So it's y'all Black, you're next. How can we as women draw the line between, or because you kind of said that same thing, that's flexible, submissive, and this modern self-sufficient woman? How can we have that balance?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll say this: I love an independent woman. That's actually who I would target if I was getting married to someone. And I say that because I need someone who's independent for that manager aspect. Also, what some may consider hood knowledge, I need a woman who's going through some hard times, who understands hard times as well. I need a woman who knows if we have $150 in the bank, say for instance, $150 in the bank, we got lights, gas, and water due at the same time. Do you know what to do? Do you know what to say? Do you know who to call? I need for you to just have that knowledge. I'm not saying we're going to have hard times, but we just never know. Life hits us unexpectedly. I need to know that I have a wife who knows how to manage tough situations like that. So that's very important that she's independent, because she's going through some of that to get to where she is. So yeah, I think I answered your question.
Yeah, you did answer my question. That's really interesting. And the hard times thing, I like, but I take issue with, but that'll be on the next episode. That'll be on the next show. David, I'm gonna go to you and then Elliot, and when David's done, go ahead and pick up after. David, welcome, y'all. I'm gonna get Elliot because I already asked one of his questions, but Elliot's coming in here a little late. But David, how can we as women draw the balance between submissive and that modern self-sufficient, and I'm going to say the word just because Black just said it, independent woman? How can we as women draw a balance between that? Go ahead.
I think interdependency is something that is important, and I think we should learn to be interdependent. I think independence is important in terms of, like JDUB said, when you're raising your daughter and things like that, you want to raise them to, be independent and things like that. And I think that's how, I raise my son as well. But for me, I think the whole submission thing comes into play when you're talking about, like who is a leader in the family front, who takes the responsibility for when things go south. And when we identify who that person is, then it is important for us to listen to that person and listen to, what they're saying as a decision that's to be made. It doesn't mean that we can't have our opinion. It doesn't mean we can't share our opinion or share our view. Like the guys have said, we want someone who's smart or intelligent, who has some street understanding or things like that. And that comes with you giving advice or you giving suggestions about things that goes on. But then obviously understanding the fact that the buck stops with this dude over here, what he says, should be put into consideration. And that's the whole thing about, coming alongside your plan, or being on your time, or being on your plan, that kind of thing that we're talking about. So it's important or good for a woman to be independent, but then when she comes into that frame where she has a man who is in charge, or she's willing to submit to in that sense, then she should be able to then rein it in and say, okay, now, you're the boss, you're in charge, take the lead, and take charge of things. So for me, that's how I see, to be. If a woman is, for example, say a single mom, taking care of a child and whatever, she makes the executive decisions. She decides what happens, what goes, and things like that. Now, when she meets with a man who is now, she wants to be a stepfather, to be a husband, to be a leader of the home, I think she should now learn how to bring it back a bit and listen to what the man has to say. Because when you're choosing a man to be the leader of the home, you're choosing him to be the leader of the home. And so you have to then listen to what he's saying in that sense. You see what I'm saying? So to me, that's how I see the whole idea of the submission and independence.
Okay. Elliot, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. So I just want to ask the question, follow up. How can we as women, draw the balance between being submissive and independent women and independent wives?
That's a
You
great
talk about,
question.
your wife is hardworking, but you
Yeah.
also have a business together, but she
Right.
also makes sure and gets the food on the table. How can we draw that balance?
Great question. I appreciate David's answer. Kind of gave me some insight as well. For me, I don't, to be honest with you, I don't really see it as a balance. I just see it as a lifestyle. Like, I would have to go back all the way to being a daughter. One of the most profound things when a daughter gets married is that the father walks her down the aisle and then hands over the reins to her husband. And that's just a sign of, like, she's coming from under one covering to another covering. So like our daughter, she's going to leave our house and then go to her husband's house. She's not going to be independent, quote unquote, where she has her own apartment doing all that type of stuff. That's just not how we want to operate. It's an interdependency amongst everyone in the family. So we always, in our family, we always talk about Team Crawford. We all are a team. And so no one is independent of the other. Even me as a husband, I depend on my wife. So I don't really see it as like a balance. I just see it as, yes, you want your daughter to be self-sufficient, but that has nothing to do with being independent. So she will learn that, yes, as the father and the husband, I am the leader. I'm the head coach. My wife is like the quarterback. I give her the game plan, and she's on the field on the day-to-day grind, doing certain things for our family. Yes, my wife works. Like I said, she's a psych doctor. But even her job per se doesn't preclude her from her submissiveness to our family. Like, even in the military, she's high ranking, but that has zero to do with the home. I'm the head coach, and everything starts with me. When a team, is losing, the first person they go after is the head coach. So the head coach, the good and the bad, everything stops with him. And so a wife, I think, is beautiful because it's freedom in being submissive, because, man, you truly, are trusting your husband. He has to be submitted to God, obviously. And he's gonna give you direction. And I think that's beautiful. So it's a beautiful thing to be self-sufficient. And then that aligns with being submissive. But I think the word submission in our culture has been demonized because it's been done wrong. Like, as a husband, I don't dominate my wife. I'm not harsh to my wife. I don't do anything like that. I don't lead by force. I lead by love. I lead by sacrifice. I lead by example. And so she can feel comfortable, and then I had to get not permission, but I had to be accepted by her father. You know, so when we got married, my father-in-law told my wife in my face, both of us together, he said, now you take all direction from your husband. So you don't have to call me for your tires. You don't have to call me for advice. You don't have to that's your husband. And so it was a complete transfer of covering. And I don't think that we have that in our society. And so a lot of our young girls, they uncovered. And so they're independent because they don't have a father or a man that they can trust to lead them. And so now it's too difficult to transition to a husband when you've never experienced being covered by a loving, leading man. And so our culture is kind of disoriented. And so we definitely want to raise our daughter to have that experience. And so that transition will be seamless. And so I think submission is a beautiful thing when it's done right.
That's interesting. I'm going to go back to my previous question that I asked the guys before you got here. And you touched on it on Maria's show. Are you raising your daughter to be a wife? We talked about Christianity. We talked about God first. And the gentleman had their perspective, but what are the top 3 things that you're raising your daughter to be? And just go a little deeper into it. So,
well, for our family, the one thing is we're raising our daughter to be a Christian. That's first and foremost. Above all, your faith is the foundation. So she is being raised in Christianity. She's also being raised to be feminine. In our culture, we really have to drill that because in America, it's all over the place. And so you would think you wouldn't have to do that. But from the day she was born, she's being drilled femininity. And even from the little things, some people think is minute, but I don't care, from colors to dresses to whatever. That has to be ingrained in you from when you are small. So even now, our daughter is 2 years old, but she is extra feminine. We're going to put her in all type of etiquette classes and different femininity groups and stuff like that for the ladies. She's going to take all of those things as she get older. So that feminine energy she's going to have, but she's going to be able to rest in it because of her father and the example of her mother. She's going to learn domestic skills because everyone should know domestic skills, but she's definitely going to learn them. My wife, every morning, every time, especially on the weekend, my daughter's with her in the kitchen. That's a tradition that she's going to have throughout her life about cleaning and cooking and just the domestic skills. She's never going to have to do anything on the outside of the house. She's never going to have to worry about gas, oil, cars, bills, anything like that. She's going to know that's your husband or that's your man's role. Now, when it comes to being a wife, one thing that really bothers me is when people have this connotation of barefoot and pregnant. That is an insult, and it just drives me up a wall because nowhere in the Bible is a woman just degraded to that. When you look at the Proverbs 31 woman, she knew real estate. She put a vineyard on the land. She sold purple. She had maid servants. She was a busy woman managing the home with employees and had skills. And so we're going to teach our daughter finances. We've already built her a brokerage account that's going to gain interest into our business when she's 18. We already have a life insurance policy that she will be her own bank, and she'll be able to contribute that to her family. She's going to know how to multiply the resources of her family. So when her husband works, or if he chooses for her to work or whatever, she's going to be so flexible that she's going to have skills that she will never have to work for an employer. She will be able to work for her husband. So we're trying to create some form that when we want to actually be a part of selecting her husband, that's another thing, that we can create a job within her family so she don't have to work for anyone else. She's going to learn teamwork. She already have a job in our company. So she won't know anything else besides being on a team and being with your family. And so this stuff that they're doing outside, that has nothing to do with us. So she won't know anything else besides just being a woman and resting in her femininity. All the little nuances that we're going to take in her life, all the different courses, she's going to be great in every area of her life. And I think that's going to bring value to her husband. As a man, we want intelligent, smart, wise, experience. women that give insight. I go to my wife for insight. I don't make decisions without my wife. I talk to her about these major decisions that we're doing in business. She gives me insight. She can see things that I can't see. That's why she's my helpmeet. Man, God said it's not good for man to be alone. And so, yes, I need her. I can survive without her, but I can't thrive without her. So I want my daughter to experience that, so she will be well equipped when she do get married. And she's gonna, I pray that she gets married young, because we're preparing her. She won't be ill prepared when she gets become an adult. I'll say that.
Elliot, I'm going to ask a question that you were asked last week. What if she wants to be a trauma surgeon?
It's not. So
you just said
we
a
always
woman
go to the extreme.
real estate. The Proverbs 31 woman is real estate. She's doing all of these things. She's building the ground. She's building the floor from the ground up. You know, we are independent women. She's doing all of these things. If she wants to be a trauma surgeon, would you have? And that's lucrative too. Financially, she's going to be set. What if she wants to do that? What if she wants to? I'll pick trauma surgeon.
Yeah,
what if she wants
that's,
to be a
that's
CEO?
extreme. Yeah, that's extreme. But I get the point.
Really extreme. What if she wants to?
Yeah,
We know a trauma. We know an ER doctor. Layla is an ER doctor, so we know somebody like that, and that's been married and has 2 kids. So I'm asking the question: what if?
If our daughter, I can't really see that, but if she chose to be, if she says that's dad, I want to be a trauma surgeon. We will sit her down and explain to her that, okay, that's what you feel. If that's what you think that you want to do, we're going to support that. But it's gonna look totally different when you get married, because marriage requires sacrifice. And I said that last time, that I don't care if you're a man or a woman, the job or profession that you have, your first priority, your first ministry is your family. I won't take a job that's going to take me overseas for money. I'm not going to take a job that's going to require too much of my time, because I need to be with my family. And so she's going to be well aware that your first priority is to care and nurture your home. So every time you're outside of your home, if you're going to get a time-consuming job, you're neglecting your first priority. And to me, that's sinful for a man or a woman. So I can't really imagine her choosing a profession like that, just because of the time that it takes someone to be proficient and to excel and just to work. I mean, that takes a lot of time. And when you have children and a husband, you're going to be out of order. And so if you are doing that when you're single, I'm sure that if she was to get married, that will change. So maybe she becomes a family practice doctor. Maybe she starts her own practice and she has people necessarily working for her. And then she dibbles and dabs and she does her thing. But when she gets married, she's going to know that that's going to look completely different. Completely different. She can't be a trauma surgeon and be married like that. No, not at all. Okay. I just can't see that.
Okay, I understand that you can't see it, but that's okay. That that it might be different. The outlook might be different. I hear what you're saying. Okay, so Monique asked the question, people think providing only means financially. That's the last thing that, and I agree with her, that's the last thing that I consider when I hear the word providing. As a husband, and you're providing in your household, what does provider, and I think I touched on this when I did the men's panel previously, but I'm going to ask JDUB first. What does providing mean to you as a provider, as a husband?
Oh, well, providing, of course, to me, it includes financial, but it also includes the leadership of the family, the direction, the responsibility of the climate inside the home, of raising the children, the treatment of your spouse, and leading also in spirituality as well throughout the process of marriage.
That's important. David, what does provider mean to you?
So for me, I think provider means providing financially, providing. So like I said before, a man is supposed to be a provider, protector, priest, and the provider of vision and purpose for the family. So in my house, I provide financially, I provide emotionally to my wife. Emotional safety, emotional security is very important. Um, so, and then I also provide guidance or direction in terms of where we're going, how we're moving, what's the direction for the family. I mean, as a Christian, I share the scripture with my family. I lead us in that sense. So basically, that's to me how I see provision being. But I think a lot of, and I've heard this before from another lady who's kind of, I think she's now 35, 40 thereabout. She was saying that our dad is only kind of focused on, or mostly focused on, a man being a financial provider. When she introduces the man to him, he's always more concerned about what does he do for a living, how much does he make, or what career does he have. And I think the major reason why that is always talked about is because, for one, fathers or men most times, we look at things from a practicality point of view. And when we look at things from a practicality point of view, we want to, as much as possible, remove all the impediments or issues on the way so that many of the other things can be dealt with. Now, if you look at the major causes of divorce, on the first row there is finances. So, and that's what I always tell women when they say all these things about, it's not all about money and all these kind of things. The reality of it is, as noble as that might sound, as good wife, as not a gold digger that might sound, do you think, to a man? The reality is this: most men know this. Bring your bread up, and you have more resources. Bring your bread up and you have more to do without, and I have more to do with, sorry. So we understand that point. So when they say things like, it's all about money and things like that, yeah, that's good. And it should not be all about money. Look at a man's character, look at his plan and purpose, look at if he's on the leadership of God, because the Bible says a man should be on the leadership of God, and then he can lead a woman directly. So look at all those things. But then money is also very, very important. It is very, very important. It is a very crucial part of it. Because, part of the things that we talk about, a woman being able to do this and do that and all those kind of things. And, I think Elliot made an important point. If a woman is, well prepared and things like that. I mean, when my wife was working, a six figure job and doing all these things, she was very busy. She comes back home, she's very tired and all those kind of things. I mean, she just tried to put up a smiley face for our son before he goes to bed so that he doesn't, look at it like, what's wrong with mommy? But she's working several hours and she's tired, and then complaining every day, oh, it's tired, I'm stressed and all that. I told her, quit the job. If that's what it is, I'm okay to take care of the family. There's no problem. And now that she does not work in that sense, she feels more fulfilled, she feels more happy, she's even actually more pleased with me because she feels like she can actually take more things off my plate, because after working several hours and all this coming back home and whatever, she feels like she can rest more in her femininity, she can be more relaxed and all those kind of things. So the whole point we're trying to make here is that it's important for us to understand that the whole concept of being a wife is not just about it's not just entirely about being independent and making all the money you can make. And there's that part of it where it comes to, especially if you're going by the biblical order and things like that, there's that part of it whereby a man is the head, submitting to God, and a woman should submit. And for him to effectively lead that family, he needs to have those capacity, has those resources to be able to lead in that sense.
Black, I don't know. Are you there? Are you back, Black? He's not back. Okay. Because I really want to ask him a question, because we've talked about this with the 70-30 before. So I'm going to go to Elliot until Black comes back. But what does provider mean to you as a husband? And then I'm going to go to my last question. But
okay, man, the guys, man, you guys were on it, bro. I appreciate that. They pretty much said a lot of things that I was going to say. I say that the number one of the things that I will say is direction and vision. That's critical. You have to be able to provide a vision for your family. so they know where you're going, the direction. And too many families, I've seen men that don't do that, and so the wife is flopping, trying to figure out, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? And that's very important, and it has to be written out. We write, every year I write a vision and mission for our family. We've done that since premarital counseling. We wrote a mission statement for our family. We've taught other couples how to do that. So you can rally around a mission statement, and then from that comes vision. Where do we want to be this year? What do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10 years? So you have to have a mission, because when you are a married couple, you are one entity now. Two become one. And so now your talent, skills, abilities, all these things are now united, and you have to have a mission for the kingdom. You're not just here just to be married and for someone else to make you happy, quote unquote. You have a mission. And so what is the mission of your marriage? And so that's critical for a husband to provide that. And finances is important. But one thing I would say that to add to that, though, is, I believe as a husband, I'm the CFO. I have to have a financial vision, and I have to come up with an execution plan that's going to get us there. So it's not necessarily just about making money. It's about how are we going to look when we retire? What am I putting in place today, like the ant, that when I can harvest when I retire? And so when my wife and I retires, now we're done, and we can just ride off in the sunset and continue, not only for ourselves, but actually have money to impact God's kingdom, impact his children, obviously other people. And that's important. So the things I do in business today always is about the future, the big plan. And so husbands have to have a financial vision, and execution plan, structure, how your home, all the different things, from just the way you raise your kids, the way you discipline, all those things. A husband provides that guidance. That also goes with direction. Spiritual foundation, the gentleman talked about that as well. You have to figure out, like, what's your church home going to look like? What is the ministries you want to be a part of? David was talking about reading scripture to your family, setting that foundation. I believe that the dinner table is powerful when the husband and father sits at the head of the table and leads the discussion about culture and God's word. How do those things intertwine? That's where your children learn, like, how to process things that they see on an everyday basis. But it's the husband that's providing that conversation, and that's allowing that to thrive and providing that insight. And emotional stability. I believe that the husband is the tone setter of the home. He creates the culture of that family. So he has to be emotionally stable. So that's why I believe a man has to have, if he needs to go to therapy, have a spiritual advisor, your pastor, your other friends, so you can get all of that stuff out. So when you're in your home, you can create emotional predictability, that you're not. I always tell my wife, I'm not going to be walking around here pissy because I got an attitude. No, I have to have emotional predictability. She knows what she's going to get when we meet. My kids know what they're going to get. I don't walk around here mad and all this other stuff. And confidence. Lastly, confidence. I instill confidence in my family. My wife can feel like she can do anything within our family, anything that God has told her to do. She can do anything like that because she has confidence in me as a leader. My kids can have confidence that, man, daddy's got it. Like, if I say I got it, man, they can just rest. That's the beautiful thing about having a husband. You don't have to have it. I will say, I got it. I take on that burden. That's why my shoulders are broad. You don't have to do that. I got it. So they can just be confident. And that's beautiful when a woman can be that way. That's why she smiles. That's why she can be happy, because she can be confident in her man. So I think a husband provides all of those things.
David, you wanted something to add, and then I want to go to Black, and then I have two final questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think so I have friends who don't make sort of like a lot of money, or basically make what the typical average man makes, in Australia, in the US as well. And many of them, they look for someone who's going to be a partner with them, someone who's going to build together with them from you can say from the scratch or whatever. And the truth is this, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that, but one thing that happens is the dynamics is always different. the dynamics is always different, and it's going to be different because you can't have a woman who is going to be this mix of modern and traditional or whatever. She's not going to slave all day to make $75,000 or whatever per year and still come home and cook dinner for you every night. That's most likely not going to happen. You see what I'm saying? That's most likely going to happen. You guys are going to have to pull your resources together and try to make it work. And that's very important because a lot of what's happening on YouTube, which something I actually was discussing with my wife before she went to bed, was a lot of people listen to a lot of things on YouTube, and many of the people don't even know what they're talking about, but they can just buy equipment, set up as whatever, and talk all their opinions and what have you, and people just listen and take it away and run home and do whatever.
Yes.
The men who make $300,000 per year or whatever, and they can actually afford to have their women, not work or not work a very strenuous job, work, how many hours, and be able to pick up the kids by 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. when they finish from school. And so they can always demand or expect to have home cooked meal when they come back from home because that's how their home is set up. But then the guy who's making $60,000 and his wife is working this job to also struggle so that they can make ends meet, and now you want to demand all these kind of things, you're not in a position necessarily to demand those kind of things because you're walking the horse that way, and the traditional man doesn't walk the horse that way. You see what I'm saying? So yes, if she is able to do that, that's fine. But then you have to also understand that you're not providing necessarily in that capacity where you're supposed to be providing. If you are supposed to be the provider, like we're saying, you see what I'm saying? So what you need to then be working with someone to build that bread up. But the point I essentially wanted to make was to talk about the fact that as Black people, I think it's important for us to start thinking about retirement, start thinking about when we get to that 65 to 85 years old, if you're making $50,000 per year and whatever and all those kind of things, and then you almost feel like we're doing fine and whatever. Do you have enough money actually saved, or do you have savings or whatever to actually survive you during those retirement age of 65 to 85? Same thing goes for women who feel like, I don't need a man. I make this amount of money. I'm good and whatever. Do you actually have that saved? If you actually calculate how much you would need when you get to 65 to 85, you're going to actually need almost close to $1 million or thereabout, depending on which country, depending on which state you're living in the US. So do you have that money, or do you have that saved, or are you going to have that saved? Otherwise, what's going to happen? You're going to have to get a shelter as an old person in your age years of your life. Is that what you see what I'm saying? So having a man is not necessarily just about you want someone to and then when you get to that 65, 85 years old, hey, you might need someone who's going to help you get off the toilet seat when your knees are out. You might need someone who's going to help you, take care of you, give you your insulin shot and whatever. So, and this is some of the things that we often don't talk about. There are people who are keyboard warriors and they jump on everybody's live and talk about, it's not about a man. It's not about this and that. And I'm always like, have you thought about this? Are you thinking that much? Do you have savings? Do you have stocks? Do you have any trust fund or anything like that? Because it's okay doing all these things now because you make $60,000 and you can take yourself out for lunch and all those kind of things. You're fine. You don't need a man, whatever. But then there's that compatibility stage when you get old and in your retirement age where you need that support emotionally and physically when your back is out and your knees are down. And then there's that also retirement age where you need that financial backup. Do you have that? How much it's what I'm saying. So it's something we need to be thinking about when we're making some of those decisions that we're making.
Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying. I want to go to Black. We're talking about partner versus provider, Black, and you've talked about the 70-30 before. So what does provider mean to you, and is it just financial? Go ahead.
Okay, so what provider means to me is someone who is there for their partner, someone who supports their partner. No, it's not just financially. It's a big umbrella of different things that go on inside of providing, making sure that person's well-being is taken care of, putting that person first, Yeah, so it's a lot that goes with being a provider. But what was the second part of your question?
Is it just mainly financial? Because a lot of men think that when a woman says that they want a provider, we're just talking financial, and we're really not.
Yeah. Um,
And I know we've discussed 70-30 before, so kind of go into detail on that a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So 70-30 is the split that that I'm willing to do with finance when it comes to finances. I know a lot of people do frown upon the 50-50, but there are a lot of couples that do 50-50 right now, and it's working for them. It's thriving for them. So I don't want to put that narrative out there that that's a bad thing, because if it works for you as a couple, it works for you as a couple. Who am I to come into your space and say that's wrong? He should be paying more, or she should be paying more. Yeah, it really works for you. 70-30 is ideal for me, but it really does come down to the percentage of, how much more each one of us is making, what type of lifestyle we want to live. There's a lot of different factors that go into that, because if by chance my wife is making more than me, I don't want her to live less than because of my financial situation. But if we live up to hers, it's got to be an understanding that there will be some additional help that will be needed. It's a conversation that has to happen. Again, all about compromise, all about having those conversations. So, but no, it's definitely not all about finances. You can have someone that pays all your bills and does everything for you, and that gives you a certain type of happiness, but it's not a fulfillment type of happiness. So the fulfillment comes with knowing that person cares about you, knowing that person thinks about you, they do the things they do for you that you wouldn't think that they would do, the fact that they pray for you. That it's a lot that goes into that. And I think someone who needs to understand that as well, that it's not all about finances. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that you just explained it a little bit better, because I know that this 70-30 thing and 50-50, I'm not on the 50-50, but that's interesting. And you're right. It really does depend on how much we're making and the lifestyle that we want to keep up. So last question. I want to go to Elliot real quick, and then I'm going to ask my last question. You sometimes you say that somebody is not a wife, or this is what a wife looks like. What does a wife look like to you, Elliot?
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. I was still trying to process the last one, but I'll talk about it later, probably at the end. But what does a wife look like? To me, the blueprint is always Proverbs 31. That's the blueprint. To me, when I think of the total package of a wife, is from the inside out. So when I for me, practically, it would be my wife. I believe my wife is the quintessential wife from the inside out. Her disposition is she has a submissive disposition, but she's incredibly brilliant. She's incredibly self-sufficient. She knows how to move in every space that I can bring her in, any space that she's in. She's beautiful. She takes care of herself. She looks the part. When I say looks the part, she dresses well. She smells nice. She wears her natural hair. She does all of these from an outside perspective. She takes care of her body. She doesn't move the way that I see a lot of other women move, and that's from the outside. She's careful about her image, about her brand as a woman. So she's not on IG. She's not on doing all these other things. So you won't catch her in bikinis. You won't catch her doing these type of, because she cares about modesty. She cares about all of those different things, and that's because she wants our daughter to be who she is, obviously. And so when I think about just from the outside, but then on the inside, I think about how she wants to be under the covering of her man. She was under the covering of her father. She knew that she wanted to be under the covering of her husband. So that's how she moves. She's respectful. She's tactful. When I made a post one time and I just got creamed because I said, my wife have never told me that I was wrong, but she's always communicated to me in such a way to inspire me to do right. Even if I was off, she knew how to talk to me. She didn't placate. She didn't, hold any punches like that, but she knew how to craft her words, just to say things to inspire me to move in a certain way with her influence. She leveraged her femininity to move me in a certain direction, and that's powerful. And a lot of women don't know how to do that. A lot of women don't know how to leverage their femininity. And my wife is very, very good at doing that. She doesn't have to tell me, babe, you're wrong. Oh, no, I don't agree with that. She doesn't talk like that. She's very smooth, but she has a voice. She has a very strong voice in our family, but she knows how to communicate. And man, and just the way, obviously, when I think about the domestic skills, my wife cooks everything from scratch. She's a psych doctor, but she knows how to meal prep. She knows how to organize her day and not to work stressful. When she goes to work, when she had to go to her job for this position here, when our boss asked her, about her resume, on her resume was a picture of her family. When she said, this is my first priority. So I'm not going to be working like all these late hours. This is my first priority. When I'm here, I'm here. Then I have to go to my family. So she knows how to prioritize her family. And she does, like I said on the other show, she wakes up at 4:30 in the morning. She works out. She reads her Bible. She goes through her prayer. She cooks for her family. When we wake up and we get our daughter together, my daughter's clothes are already laid out. She has breakfast for it. She's preparing. She manages the nanny. She manages the housekeeper. She does all of those things. I just make sure the resources are there and everything is moving from a financial perspective. And she then funnels out and she manages those things. And so when I see how my wife operates, man, she is the quintessential wife on every level. And so when I see other women and their attitude, they don't smile. They very combative, very argumentative. They, and I would say, and I'm not being disrespectful, some of them I would say are even lazy. They don't want to do certain things, so it's different for me. And I see my wife aligns with the Proverbs 31 woman in that regard. To me, that's the blueprint. That is what a wife is, in my opinion.
Wow. Okay, this is interesting. Ravine just asked, Elliot, I wonder if you offer this if you offer this to her as well. And that's why I thought of, the marriage-minded man. Like, if you were in that state, as a husband, I want to ask that question, and then I want to move on. But go ahead, Elliot. As far as you as a husband, what are you bringing in return?
Well, obviously, all the things that we talked about earlier from what a husband provides. So the reason so I try to do everything I can to make sure my wife is not overwhelmed. My wife never had. So when we talked about the 50-50 thing, I don't really understand that, honestly, because we don't operate like that. It's always 100. So I manage all of the money that comes into the home, no matter where it comes from. And then I provide the vision and financial execution of all of that. So my wife never has to worry about what is the money doing? She knows that my job is to make sure that when she's 40, when she's 42, my wife will never have to work again, because I've been doing the legwork to make sure that now she can now do whatever she wants to do, what her passion is, because I've done that work. My wife never has to worry about the car. She never has to worry about the home. She never has to worry about anything that's getting paid. None of that. My wife can just do all these other things because she doesn't have to stress about none of that stuff. I got all of that. She don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And some women still have to worry about that.
I hear you. I'm going to address David's question, because I love David's question, and it kind of piggybacked on what Black said earlier. I never understand why it's a negative to say I need a man. I mean, we all need each other, but it is always a badge of honor to say I want a man, not I need a man. Elliot has said before, it's important that we have each other. Men and women need each other. But to me, David, here's the thing. We as women need to know our self-worth, excuse me. So I don't like saying I need a man, because that bows to thinking that I can't do it without myself, that I don't have the confidence the innate confidence as a woman, especially as a Black woman. So that I will never say I need a man. And also, as Black said earlier, sometimes if we come into adulthood needing a man, we end up getting with the wrong man. Okay. So I have friends, and as you guys know, I'm from California, and I had a friend that was always in need of a man. No matter how he came, no matter what he brought to the table, no matter how I don't want to say how he looked, but she was very much wanting that look of a man, but got with an abusive man. Just that I need a man. We may not know our own self-worth and who we are as women first. So, and I think that's what Black said, in raising his daughter, he wants to make sure, and JDUB touched on it as well, that we had our own self-confidence first. So I will never say I need a man. So that need says that I'm just going to get with whatever man. And so I definitely would love a companion and would love a man in my space and to share my life with. So wanting a man and needing a man is different. And I don't know, ladies and men in the chat, tell me if you understand what I'm saying. If you disagree, I'm cool with that too. So that is the point with needing a man. That's why we don't say we need a man. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but for me, I just feel like and we always talk about men's ego and men's ego and men's ego, and I think that statement oftentimes is just a reflection of women's ego, because I don't see a reason why you cannot have your confidence and still say I need a man. I don't see why that's a problem. And again, I think you kind of give a bad faith example by saying the example of someone needed a man, and then I know of people who said they need a man and they found someone who's been with them for 20 years. It doesn't have to be someone who said they need a man and then now they go with a bad person. I don't think that's necessarily a good example to go by. For me, I mean, I don't see a lot of men say, I mean, when men say things like, oh, I don't need a woman, I just want a woman, whatever. I mean, you hardly even hear that. I mean, it mostly comes off from women's side saying, oh, I don't need. And it always happens when they feel like they're financially okay. That's when they mostly, and you see, that's why I'm always like, from a logical mindset, it doesn't make sense, because on one end, you guys say it's not all about the money, it's all about the money. But now, once you have your bread, you can say, I don't need a man. But when you don't have your bread and you're a single mother with a kid and you don't have it like other women have it, you don't feel a problem with saying, oh, I need help. I need someone to help me. You see what I'm saying? So I don't see why and like I said before, a lot of women, honestly, it's very funny. A lot of women do courses or professions that make what? $40,000, $50,000 a year, and they're just managing to, because it's just them by themselves and they're managing to put bread on the table. Now they feel like, I don't need a man. But like I said before, do you actually have money to survive you till 65 to 85 when you're in that retirement age? Do you have that savings in there? Do you have and apart from the financial, when you get to that age and your knees are out or your back is out and you need someone to pull you up from the toilet seat and support you and be there, and come on, that's need. I don't see what's. I need a woman to have my babies. I need a woman to support me. I need a woman to be my right hand person, to go through life with me, to build this empire. I mean, I don't see, and it often happens with Black women. This whole I don't need a man thing, oftentimes. I'm like, I don't see why it's an issue. You need me, I need you. What's the problem?
I hear what you're saying, David, and I'm not disputing what you're saying.
Amen. Bro.
to your degree, to what in that idea from what you're saying. But if and Monique said it, needing a man in that sense comes from the lack of covering. from fathers. So the example I was going to give, I have a friend in California who always used to say she needed a man. The men she got, she did not qualify him. That's actually was going to be my last question of the day, but she just got with whatever man. Like she's got because of that negative example or that or lack of example of a father. She just needed a man and did not do that qualifying. Had children, but different men, and was just like needing that man. Because if we as women aren't doing the qualifying and aren't doing the asking the right questions and how they are with their family and with their mothers, we're just like whatever man. I'm not saying it like what you're saying. I hear what you're saying as far as financially, and you want somebody to live your life with and spend your life with and be there for you in the end as that companion, but just needing whatever man. And I think that that's kind of what Black was saying, is having being a woman with confidence and able to just be a self-sufficient, independent woman mentally, and know my self-worth. That's where I'm taking it. I don't want to say I need a man, just knowing my self-worth and who I am and not dimming my light. But I hear what you're saying as far as that companion throughout your life. So, and I want to go to Black on this question because I keep mentioning him, and then go to JDUB, and then last question of the day.
Yeah, so as a father, it is my job to make sure my daughter is self-sufficient, to the point where when she says that she needs a man, she doesn't need just any man, just to make her feel whole. However, when it comes to needing a man, I think that's something that she's going to have to experience. I think that's something every woman is going to have to experience. So let's say, for instance, hold on. All right, so let's say, for instance, that I'm in a relationship with Crystal. I'm a fantastic boyfriend to her. You know, I make her life easier. I
Of
make
course
her
you are.
basis, all of the good stuff. So I'm giving her butterflies every day. I'm giving her life balance. And to that point when she's experienced something like that, she can say, I need Corey, because I'm already her man. She knows what I'm providing for her. She knows that I'm adding that value to her life as she's adding to mine. So in that sense of saying I need that person, it's like, you know, that something's going to be missing if that person goes away. Not so much that you can't function if that person goes away, but the extra value of being added that a partner gives you, the extra value of balance a partner gives you, is going to be missing. And you know what that is when you feel it. So it's instead of being that the cold cut way of saying, okay, I'm out here, I'm single, I need a man. If you're in it and you recognize what a man is offering you, and you can peacefully say, I need this man, because you know what you're getting with this man. So I think it's a little bit of a difference. I do understand where you're coming from, David, as far as that balanced life, and I'm agreeing with you on that aspect. But for the thought process of saying, like you said, financially, you know, it does kind of boil down to financial, when a woman can say, okay, I need a man because she broke. You know, she's making that 30 or 40K. These kids coming in, you know, bills are piling up. I need a man to balance that finances. To me, that's not a good way of saying I need a man. That's not the right way of saying I need a man. The man comes in for balance because your partner is going to make you better. I know I'm going to be a better man once I get married. I know this wholeheartedly. And my wife has to know this as well. And if she doesn't, I'm not the man for her. If I don't, she's not the man. She's not the woman for me. So I just want to be clear on that part as far as when I say that need comes into play. You have to experience something. You have to experience that need before you can just say you need it.
Okay, JDUB, I'm going to go to you, and I know you have to go. What questions should we as women ask men to qualify them and to gather information? Because we know that it's a gathering of information if we're dating intentionally and we want to be walking down that aisle. So last question, you have a daughter. What are those qualifying questions? And because it's important, because a lot of times we know that sometimes we're not asking the right questions. We're just getting this man. Like, I don't want to just be getting this man. What are those questions that I need to ask those qualifying questions. Go ahead, JDUB.
Well, before I ask that question, I want to kind of put a pin in something that Elliot said, and something I get out. I really want to know what, like, for women who are in marriages or who are not in marriages, what the temperament of your man should look like. When he pointed out that a man shouldn't be walking around, like, I guess, so much angry, excited, full of anxiety. And that's a part of the man covering your household, being responsible for your household, and providing that type of, that's what I spoke on, that climate where you don't walk around your man, if something's going wrong, he's so scared and nervous that he can't handle things, and he's lashing out at the family members and all of that. That's something that is, like, so important that people need to see, because, like, we're looking at a situation with Olajuwon and Katina, how his temperament is just so up here and down there, is just all over the place. How can a woman feel safe and be stable in that type of environment to be providing her best? Because I see so many people, like, kind of condoning that behavior, and absolutely that is, I mean, everybody lives a different type of life, but that's exactly what it should not look like, a safe environment. And also, okay, then I guess I can just go into the question. But also another good point Elliot had made about the situation about people look for marriage to be like a happiness, like the happiness is such the focus, and happiness is not the main focus of marriage. Now, when you have things that are balanced and complete, happiness can come, but it's also about, like, building, and as Black said, making you a better man or woman in the process as well. It's about growth and learning and experiences for both. So to go with your question, what you said with, as far as, like, what question should be asked, I would say more so that it's, I guess I couldn't answer that all in one. Why? Because a lot of times people have representatives where they can present something to you so well that it's not really authentic. You actually have to, one, look at your needs or how you picture your life and see if that man is leading you or would want to lead you into that direction, and also use your own intuition as well. Trust in what you know, what you believe, what you see, and what you come up on, because actions really need to be backed up by whatever words that he's speaking of. So first, if you have a man who's presenting a plan, but you also watch his steps and how he moves. So it's not just a certain type of question, because some people are like tricksters. They can tell you and promise you everything in the world. Then they be like the Tinder swindler. They take all your money and your life savings, but they talked all this good game. You have to see how a man moves, as long as along with his plans that he put out there.
I actually absolutely appreciate that, because somebody put their representatives, and next thing you know, you're thinking that you're doing all of this qualifying. You're qualifying this man, you're deep in love, and it results in you losing everything emotionally, physically, and you've given your body over to him. You're emotionally invested and financially spent, and that's not what we want to just any man. And that's and thank you, Tish, for coming in, Mrs. Crawford, because I do think that sometimes we're not, because if we're coming from a different household, or we don't have that strength that these men bring, then we're just wanting any man. And that's not the case. I do agree that it does sound not negative, but it sounds like you're hurt if you just say, oh, I don't need a man, I can do everything by myself. And that's not what I'm saying at all. That's not how I am presenting it. So Black, what do you think, as what questions should we women ask? How should we qualify? Because it's qualifying our men and making sure that we are being wife-minded as well. And yes, go ahead. What do you think that how should women qualify their men?
You mean what questions that women should ask their man?
Yes.
Okay.
What questions should women ask men because it's about, gathering data and qualifying our men to be the right ones to walk down that aisle.
Yeah, it's really the way I question, or I don't really like to call it question or interrogating a woman, but the way I found out more about my partner is I ask questions about the past versus today, more so than what the future is going to hold. I know a lot of people do ask the question of what do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you see yourself in 10 years? My question would be along the lines of, okay, if you had to tell your 5 years ago, if you had to tell yourself something, what would you tell yourself about yourself back then that you know today? And based upon her answer, how she thinks about her answer, how she analyzes her answer, then it's like, okay, then I can already see how the next 5 years are going to be. But you give someone those type of questions that they ask all the time, they're going to be ready for those type of answers. And then you never know if they're going to follow through with those answers because they're just answers at that point. So I think it's really important to just really pay attention to your partner. You have to be able to spend that time with them, that quality time with them, and pay attention to them. You know, a lot of answers will be there for you just by spending that time with them. If you know you feel a certain way when they're around, a very special way when they're around, and make you feel comfortable and loved, and adored, then that's a good sign. You know, I'll tell you this: there was your body, your mind speaks to you, and a lot of times we ignore it. There was someone I was around who every time I came on within 5 or 6 feet of them, my knee started hurting. Every time I get this shooting pain in my knee, and it turns out that person was out to get me, like seriously out to get me. And that's just an example. Like sometimes your body and things around you will tell you, you know, if someone is for you. So any type of uncomfortable vibes you're feeling, you have to listen to those vibes because, like I said, things around you are telling you what's going on. You gotta trust your intuition, trust your mind, and just go from there. But interrogating, interviewing, I don't think that's the right key. But I also don't think it's the right key to continuously ask like, "What's your favorite ice cream?" and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that. That gets you nowhere. Yeah, you get to know what their favorite ice cream is, but it's not one of those situations where if you like chocolate, you're this type of person. If you like vanilla, then you're this type of person. You know, that's thinking a little bit too deep into it. I think sometimes relationships are overly thought. It's not really that deep. It's just really about how you feel, how you make that person feel, how you guys are able to compromise and exist as one. That's what's important. So once you find someone who speaks your language in that way, then I think you'll be able to find that extended have happiness, because you don't need anyone to make you happy, but that extension of happiness that you'll find I think is dope.
That's it, the extension of happiness. Yes. And was this a woman that every time she came around, was this a woman or a man that
It was a woman.
Really?
It was a woman.
Okay.
She was out to get what she can get. And it didn't work. But yeah, she was definitely what she can get.
I love that. David, as far as, a single woman out there, what are the qualifying questions do you think that we should ask to qualify our husband?
Well, I mean, if you're asking like, how do you identify a marriage-minded man?
Yes.
Okay. So I think there are a couple of things. One of the first things I think to identify someone who is a married-minded man is firstly is where is he on his purpose? Does he know his purpose? Does he know what he's going after? Does he know where he's at in life? And I think this is also a very good question, or a good gauge to know where that person is or what they're looking for in a partner. For example, if you meet Jerry, at the Walgreens or whatever, and you guys are chatting and whatever, and you get to know each other, where is he in his life? What does he do? If he's at this stage in his life where he's put his ducks in a row, he's got his career going and things like that, and he's looking for, the next phase of his career, that, okay, yes, he's kind of on that way to becoming someone who can support a family or someone who can lead a family in that sense. Obviously, you have to then look at other things like his character. a good character makes a good man. You need to then begin to look at that and see, okay, what kind of a person is he in the way he moves and the way he does things. And then his family relationship, what's his relationship with his family? How does he um, have a relationship with his mom, with his sisters, with his brothers, or whatever, and things like that. His relationships as well with his friends or colleagues and things like that. The kind of person he is important. Obviously, if you're a Christian, the first important thing is to look at if the person is a Christian and if they're on the same track with you, in that sense. And then you want to look at in that plan of their life or how they want to move after dating them for a couple of months, maybe 6 months, 9 months, depending on how the relationship is moving ahead. You now want to see, how do you fit into that plan? Does he have a space or a place for you in that plan? Is there a way in which you fit into that plan? If otherwise not, probably, you guys are just having a good time together and that's pretty much it. But then if he begins to see where you fit into that plan or see, and when I say fit into that plan, he's probably talking about, okay, you're here in New York, I'm here in whatever, you guys are talking about, oh, okay, maybe we might move to New York or maybe we might move to this place later on and things like that. He's talking about the future tense of the relationship. That means that, he's not looking for just a short, quick, sweet thing. He's looking for something that is kind of prolonged and looking forward in the direction. But then I think one thing I always try to tell women sometimes is, women often have a list of all the things they want in a man. And I always tell them, it's good that you have a list of what you want in a man. Then I want to ask you a question. The man that you want, okay? Now write a list down of the things that you think that man wants in a wife. Identify what you think the man that is the perfect man for you, the man that you're looking for. Write down a list of what you think he's looking for in a wife. And when you write down that list of those things that he wants in a wife, now ask yourself, do you have those things? Do you qualify for those? Like Corey said, he's not asking for what he's not bringing to the table. In the same way, what you are asking for in a man, do you bring that? Are you that? I'm looking for a man who does this, who does that, who can give me this and give me this life and what. Now, do you qualify for what that man wants? And when you look at it that way, because it's a question a lot of women don't like to ask themselves, because it pushes the question back to them, why they are still single or why they are not with someone. And the truth is this: when you write down those things, and you are honest about yourself, not this, you want to start making justification. Yeah, I know one person who, I know Sierra married Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson married her. No. That's a one in a how many million?
Right.
No, go by what is real. Go by the reality. Don't say, oh, Lizzo. Yeah, Lizzo can do this. No. Hey, I know someone who's Lizzo's weight and what? No. Go by the real thing and put it on paper and say, what is that man looking for? And when you do that, honestly, when you do that, it makes you see, oh, maybe I don't level up to the man that I'm looking for. And maybe I need to do some things to up my game. And when you think introspectively like that, it would make you start making some changes so that you can meet the level of person that you're looking for. Because again, like Corey said and we have said, you cannot be asking for what you're not bringing to the table or what you're not offering to the other person.
I'm going to go to Elliot. I love what David said because Sierra had to get there. It's not that there wasn't, she had already, she was in a different mindset, a different place, and she had to get there. And Russell was willing. There was some waiting, and there was like, okay, if you're gonna get here, then yes, then we can get this union. So, I love that. And but yeah, so Elliot, go ahead. What questions should we women ask to qualify a man to be that he is marriage minded?
Well, I guess I answer in two parts. When I think about my daughter, I would want her to ask, Are you free this Saturday to come over for dinner? Because I'm going to ask the questions, to be honest with you. As a father, I'm gonna vet for my daughter. I don't want my daughter to have to stress and try to figure out all this type of stuff. And we're going to be highly integral in helping her choose her husband, because he's going to be a family member, and then basically he's going to continue the legacy. So we have to be a part of that, and I want her to feel safe in that. And in our culture, we don't really do that a lot. But I've been around the world, and I've seen other cultures do that, and it works. So we definitely want to integrate that into our family. I think a woman should depend on her father to help vet these men or men in her life that she trusts, whether that be if she doesn't have a father, whether it be another family member, a pastor, or someone like that she can say, okay, I need you to meet him, and we can have dinner together, and we can ask these type of questions. Because like you say, it's the chameleons out there, it's mannequins out there. You see one thing and it's a train wreck. So that's one part, is that if you have that in your life, leverage that. Leverage the men in your life that can help vet these men, because I'm definitely going to do that for our daughter. No, but I will say also, if outside of that, I would say that ask him, what is his love story with Christ? Because we're Christian. So what is your love story with Christ? How did you come to love Jesus? And how are you becoming a better Christian? Because we believe in marriage is a mirror. And so, I practice my Christianity every day based on the close proximity I have with my wife and my family. So how are you becoming a better Christian? Because if you are becoming a better Christian, then you'll be a great husband. You'll be a great man. So that's critically important. And some people don't know some people are cultural Christians. They grew up Christian because that's all they were exposed to, but they truly don't love Christ. So ask that man, how did he come to love Christ? Because then that means he's going to embody all those attributes that Christ has told us to be as a man. So that's critically important. And was he raised to be a husband? How was he raised? How was he brought up in the faith and how to be a man? And so you ask him about his family life and those type of things. And does he want to be married inside of a year? So many men are like, well, one day I want to be married. Well, that's not the man that's not the man you want to kind of roll with. You need a man that's very intentional, that's going to say, yes, I want to be married. If we kicked it off, yeah, I'll be married inside of a year. I want to start having a family after a couple, whatever. But he has to be able to communicate clearly that he wants to be married, and married rather soon. Not, I'm about 5 years, man. I can see it. We can be engaged for about 3-4 years. What? No, my daughter's not. Wait, that's not going to happen. What is his idea of a wife? What does he think a wife is? Kind of like what David was saying. Like, what is his perspective on that? And then she can get an idea of, do I meet that? If this man says, I want a woman who, like, in the other show, I want a woman who can cook, but she realized she hate cooking. Well, that may not be the man for you. I don't know if you're going to be able to make that work. So you got to ask him, what is his idea of a wife? And what is the purpose and vision God has given him? Because now you need to know, as a woman, can you align with that? Because part of your requirement is to be submissive to that vision. So can you align with how he sees God is putting him, with the trajectory that God is mapping out for him? Can you come alongside that? And if you can't, then he may not be the one for you. And what is his profession and financial acumen? Like, just because you have a high profession doesn't mean you have financial acumen. Like, you may not know, it's many people who have high paying jobs but are broke. So it's not necessarily part of it is, what is your profession? But you really got to get insight into, does he know how money works in America? Especially if you hear, do you really understand how money works? Because that's going to be able to determine truly financial freedom and financial stability. Too many times we leave the question with, what is your profession? Oh, he's a 6-figure earner. He's, he 120, 150 plus. Okay. There's a lot of people like that that's broke. So, that we got to be real with that. How does he handle conflict? Like, how does he truly deal with conflict? His stress and all those type of things. And lastly, what does his day look like? Ask him, what is the day in the life of you? So you can get insight into, does he work out? Does he pray? Is God is the center of his life? What is his work ethic? Like, all those type of things. You can get insight into that, so you can kind of determine, is this going to be a good man that can lead me and that's going to be able to lead our children? Like, so I believe that those are some critical questions that you can ask practically. But I will always go back to the first. Go to your father, let him vet this man, and then be able to say, yeah, I think he will be good for you. And now you can see whether or not y'all can mesh, and then we can go forward talking about marriage. But your father has to vet that, to take the stress off of you and having these bad relationships. I want my daughter to experience that. So
right. I'm going to go to Black. Black, what do you think of what Elliot just said? What are the questions we women should ask men? And would you advise your daughter? Because I know you have a daughter and she's 13 now. Is she?
Yeah, she's actually 12. She's about to be 13 though.
Okay. And so now, like you said, she's starting to, look at guys and look at these little boys, and they're starting to look at her and you wanting to kill somebody. So what are those questions that you want her, when she's ready to get married, that you would want her to ask?
Well, that's the prep that takes place right now. That's the prep for her adulthood. Although Ellie made some points there, I do have to respectfully disagree. I do understand there are cultural differences. People do things a certain way, and all due respect to those differences. I do not feel like it's my responsibility to vet my daughter's husbands or my daughter's potential husband. The reason why I say this is because it is my responsibility to teach her. So I won't always be there. I'm not going to be in the marriage with her. So for me to sit here and say, okay, this is okay, you're as a husband, you want to want this, you want to want that. That's what I teach her growing up. But when she actually meets that man, and he's on a day-to-day one-on-one with this guy, she has to make that decision about how she feels internally. I can't make that decision for her as her father. I think that for me, that'll be unfair to her to do that. I'm taking something away from her from doing that. She's gonna have to choose this man. I also would not encourage getting married in less than a year because of how society is today. Back in the day, people could do it. You meet someone 3 weeks, boom, you get married and be together for 45 years.
Right. Within five awesome. Months, we're married, but it doesn't.
Because the times have changed so drastically, I would not advise my daughter to do that because there are a lot of games that's being played out here. She's going to hurt. I already know my daughter's going to feel some hurt. And I have to be there to soften that blow, have to be there to educate her on her values and things that she should look for in a partner. And she's going to have to go through trial and error. She's going to have to have those boyfriends to see if what daddy taught me was true for me, or if I like to tweak it here or tweak it there for my preference. And that's completely up to her. So at a point that I'm making that, yes, I definitely understand the strong sense of a father being there for her, but I'm there for her when she needs me. I won't insert myself in her life, in her dating life when she gets of age, in her dating life to say, okay, no, don't talk to him, talk to him. Don't talk to him, talk to him. I can't make those decisions for her because I'm making them more so for me than her. I'm like, even if I put in her best interest at heart, how she feels internally, I'll never understand that. No matter how well connected I am with my daughter, I'll never understand that piece of her, what she'll need to make her happy for the rest of her life. I don't want to get her a man that's exactly like me. She had to figure that out. If she wants a man that's exactly like me, more power to you. You're gonna have you a good man. Okay. You have a good man. But that's a decision that's up to her. So for me, it's a little bit different when it comes to that. So I want to teach her, self-value, self-understanding, being self-aware, and understanding what a partner is supposed to be. That now, if I tell her a partner is supposed to make you feel, that there's supposed to be a balance there for you. You feel, like I said earlier, you feel loved, you feel appreciated, all of that. If I tell her she's supposed to feel that, then how she feels that is completely up to her. Mm-hmm. Finding a man that's going to do those things to make her get there, that's completely up to her. I have my thought of what that man should look like. I have my thought of what that man should say, what that man should do, but I wouldn't always be 100% right in her situation. That'll be from my situation. So even though I want the best for my daughter, I'm sure every father wants the best for their daughter, but some things, we have to kind of allow our daughters to go through the trial and error because it's a part of life of learning. We can't be there to, defend everything she has to be able to learn from those mistakes. That's a tough part about being a father, to be honest with you. But yeah, those are my 2 cents.
I hear what you're saying, because as women, as young children, or when growing up, we're gonna hurt. We're going to get in those relationships that were not right for us, and it's gonna be painful, and we're going to hurt. So, as that father figure, it's important that we could count on you when it's time to pick up those pieces. But at the same time, how we hurt and things like that, that's not always going to be up to you. So I appreciate what you said there. Um, but I love what you said, because also the temperament. This is one of the last things I wanted to say, because I had it in, it's not really necessarily a question, but how we always look at, especially as women now, how a man is with others, like how he is with his family. I have a good friend that I've known for, oh gosh, almost 30 years. And dating a guy, she was very much, falling for him. And she thought that uh, they were about 2 years together. But she's very close with her family, immediate family and extended family. He doesn't talk to his mother. Um, he he when she had a family member that passed away, his mother was in the hospital. They were not together anymore, but he wanted to go with her to her family member's funeral instead of going to his mother and seeing his mother in the hospital. She was like, "Stop, wait, no, you need to be by your mother's side." And there were so many that I said, "That's a red flag." That how he is with his family, and how he is, how he moves in society, how he is at work, and things like that. That is so important for us as women to pay attention to. We need to see that. And you guys touched on it a little bit, but sometimes it takes us a year and a half. I know that is, I'm sorry, Elliot, I hear your point, getting married within a year, but as Black said, my mother said, honestly, sometimes it takes a year and a half to realize, to get to know somebody. Sometimes it takes that long. And I hear your point, but sometimes it does take a minute to just see if he's the right one for you, and if you want to bring him around your family. So yeah, I do. Last thing, and then we're gonna get out of here. The day is far spent. I thought it was gonna be an hour and a half. But I want to talk about the temperament of a man, the temperament of your husband, because as you know, and I'm so glad that all of us have watched what's transpired over the week on Mavs, because something that JDUB said before he left, and I think I'm just gonna have a part 2 because this is so important. What should a temperament of your husband look like? David, you start, and then I'm just gonna go in order: David, Black, and then Elliot. You can end it.
Yeah, I think the guys made a very important point, and I agree with both of them. I just think maybe they just said it in different ways. Obviously, we know as fathers that we're not going to be there at every time when our daughter is dating and things like that. And she's going to meet several people and, probably date several people. But when you get to that point where you want to marry, when you actually say, okay, I want to marry this dude, you're going to have to come to me first to give my blessing. That's all we're saying. So when she then comes to you to say, oh, daddy, this is the dude I want to marry, then I can say, okay, from what I've heard from this dude, from the way I can sense that he's moving, I think he's a good guy. All the other things, obviously, my daughter has to figure out that on herself, like how he talks to his friends. And because obviously, when he's talking to me, he's going to be on his best behavior. He's not going to be using curse words and whatever. Hopefully, he's going to try and be decent and respectful. But then when I start hearing things from him and I ask him questions, like on the Mavs Australia, there was one guy who was asked by the father, what do you do during your downtime and whatever? And he's like, yeah, I play video games and whatever. And the father is like, you can't be serious. Like, what's your plan for the next 5 years? And things like that. You see what I'm saying? So from those little things, as a man, I'll be able to say, no, don't marry yet. you might want to check this out very well. I don't give my blessing yet. So, and that's the vetting in that sense that we're kind of talking about, your father doing the vetting for you eventually. Obviously, you need to do all the other things by yourself, from day to day things, because we all date several people. But when you decide that, oh, I want to lock it down with this one, then you can say, Mama, I think I found him. And then mom is like, okay, invite him over. Let's make some peach cobbler and, let's yeah. So, but I think your question again was, if you want to remind me, sorry.
The temperament of a man. So even if
Yeah.
it's something that you don't like, even if he doesn't like, hell, he doesn't like the way I cook, or he doesn't like something, his temperament, how he moves with you. And on the men's panel, we talk a lot about respect, that respect is a two-way street. Are you teaching your son what his temperament should be when he is when he does meet his potential wife? Well, your son's only 3, but would
Yeah.
you be that?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that I think my daughter would necessarily have to figure out on her own. And that's where we're talking about, raising your child and showing her what it's like to have a father in the house, and how a father talks to the mother, and how the mother moves and things like that. When she sees all that growing up, then she knows that, okay, this is how it should be. This is how a man talks to a woman and things like that, and I can't just say like, a man must always be like this every time. The reason why I say that is this, because one of the things that I think we learned from one of the maths previous season was, somebody was saying our parents never showed her how to deal with conflict. They never showed conflict resolution in the family, in the home. And I think that's something that, sometimes we don't learn, because we want to kind of model this perfect picture whereby, daddy and mommy are always happy with each other and whatever. We have disagreements sometimes. Of course, we listen to each other, but it's not like we're cussing each other out and calling each other bees and whatever. No, but we have disagreements. And when we have disagreement, this is how we talk it through. This is how we walk it through. That gives your child an understanding of, okay, when we have a disagreement in my relationship, in my marriage, this is how it should be. My husband is not going to call me whatever, and I'm not going to call him whatever, but we're going to have disagreements and we're going to work it out together. See what I'm saying? So those kind of things. So that's what I'm saying. And this is one of the things I got from some people's review about Olajuwon and Katina, because Olajuwon says, he walks around the clock. He walks this kind of rotated shift whereby he's like 8 to 8 or something like that. And, he has cooked and cleaned the home the previous night, and then he comes back home after all that shift, and you're not even going to help or do anything to clean the house or whatever. Man, I'm going to be pissed off. That's the honest truth, because if we are human beings, let's be honest here. As a woman, if you work all the whole 8 hours of the day and you come back home and you're cooking in the kitchen and your husband is just shouting, "Come on, LeBron James, what's that? Blah blah blah," and just sitting down on the sofa looking and not helping you do anything. You have to do this and pick the baby, and you're gonna get mad. Like, come on, what's happening here? And that's kind of the thing that some people were analyzing from the Olajuwon Katina situation. So I'm not going to say a man must always be like this, perfect. What? He's a human being. He has emotions. He's frustrated. He might have a bad day at work. He might be stressed out and whatever. So he might have a moment. Hey, it's a moment. He's a human being. He's not a saint. You see what I'm saying? So, but obviously, like I said, there's not going to be any name callings, no bees, no whatever. There's going to be respect. There's going to be respectful disagreement. I don't agree with this. Okay, let's talk about it. Blah blah blah. You see what I'm saying? But then we're not going to be calling each other out, each other's name, and all those kind of things. So I think that's how the temperament should be in the home. That's how it should be created by the father, to lead that way. I've dated someone before whereby two things, she gets angry and she wants to. I'm like, no, we're not going there. We're not going to talk like that. Okay. What's your concern? Okay, fine. You don't like this? All right, fine. I'll tell that person not to. There's someone that, I was working together with in church, and, this person was sending messages to say, hey, just checking up on you after church, blah blah blah. And she was like, no, why is he doing that? Why is she doing that? Is this what you want to be doing with? I'm like, no, 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 bring that temperature down. No, okay, I'm gonna tell her to do this and respect. So I'm saying, so you
Right.
create that atmosphere as a man, even if you have been with a woman who's, you come from this home where it's like that and all these kind of things. When you come around that, no, 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 tone it down here. Don't talk to me. Listen to some what's that sensual lyrical reading. To give you that, calm. Yeah, listen to Corey Black. Let him serenade you, and calm down. And then you calm down like that, and then we talk about it. No raising voice. No, yeah, no, no, no. Let's yeah. And we lead that. We lead that as men. We're not just leading in other aspects. We lead by the temperature of the house, of the room. Lead in that sense, and I think the woman will follow that.
One question, then we got to go to Corey.
All right.
David, before you got married, did you ask your woman, or not even ask her, did she talk to you about her previous relationships? And what was your did you give any insight or talk to her and say, hey, that's not how we're going to raise, that's not how we're going to be in our household? Or it is? Did she speak to you about her previous relationships?
Well, I didn't necessarily say this is not how we're gonna be in our household and things like that. The only thing was, she told me like, oh, this the first thing that even happened was like, she was like, you're one of the first persons I've dated that is like this, who is like this kind of. She's always dated, a lot of guys who like the nightlife party, whatever, that kind of person. I'm a bit more, let's chill, let's relax, so I'm not into all those kind of stuff and all those kind of, so, and then there's always, all this kind of cheating or whatever. So there's always looking at phones. What are you doing? What are you doing? First thing after hearing all that stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is my password. You got my password. You can look anything you want to look at. I have no problems. You can see whatever I'm not going in. I'm not cheating. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. Have at it, and that's creating that, atmosphere of, yeah,
Right.
relax. You're gonna be secured here. There's no, because the truth is this: we've all had baggages. We've all had experiences that are not the best, and that's just the honest truth. So we might say, oh, and it's always good when we say things like, go and get healed, go and get therapy and all those kind of things. And of course, it's very good, to do that. But we also have to understand that some healing takes lifelong. Some healing take years. So are we gonna say that, everybody who's had a bad relationship or whatever should go and be healed for 5 years or whatever? No, we're gonna have to walk through certain things together and give each other grace and support each other, as long as the other person is willing to listen and willing to learn and willing to grow together with you.
Okay, Black. How when you are in a relationship, do you speak to your potential wife about her previous relationships? And yeah, do you talk to your daughter about the temperament of a man that you would like her to be with? Her temperament, the anger, as David spoke about. So go ahead.
Yeah. So when it comes to if I speak with my girlfriend about previous relationship, yes, I do have that conversation, but I word it a little bit differently. I word it to the sense of, can you tell me about your best relationship that you've been in? Can you tell me why it was your best? Even though it didn't work out, you still have a best relationship you've been in. Tell me what made it the best for you. So I'm looking to see, she's going to say we communicated well. I'm looking to see that she says that the partnership was easy going. It was easy flow. It wasn't any drama, anything like that. Those are encouraging words that I want to hear. The other words are like, man, he did everything. He bought me this, he bought me that, he bought me that, blah, blah, blah. He did this for me, he did that for me. It's more about what you receive. That's what made it the best. And that's something that's a red flag for me. I want to hear about the working back and forth of the relationship that made you really see that as like the best relationship. That tells me where your mindset is, was then, where it is now, and possibly what it'll be in the future. So, yeah, so I ask questions like that. I don't say that as far as my daughter is concerned, I haven't had that type of conversation with her yet. Like I said, she's 12 now, so we're building those blocks. That the type of relationship where we're having those types of conversations about boys and things of that nature, and that's something I absolutely love. I wouldn't take that away for anything, because that's something that's so sacred. Sometimes the girls, they have a hard time talking to their dads about boys and stuff like that, but I honor that. I truly cherish that, and every time we have a conversation, I thank her for coming to me and talking to me about it, because it's important for her to feel comfortable doing so, no matter what dad's response is going to be, but you feel comfortable coming and talk to me about it. So we had all types of conversations about that. So, but yeah, so we haven't had that particular conversation, but that is definitely on the to-do list about temperament, about understanding when a guy is upset, he's angry, whether it's something you should lean forward to say, okay, hey, it's something I can help you with, versus leaning back and just giving that person their space, because there's two different types. So yeah, I mean, that's a conversation that's definitely going to happen.
You're absolutely right. Those, especially when they're in that age where your daughter is, that 10, I'm going to even say 10 to that 15 in high school, but that preteen to, adolescence. Ooh, it's hard to talk to, especially their dads or their those male role models that they may have. So yeah, you cherish that and thank her for that, because that makes sure that she's going to keep staying open to you and keep having those conversations with you. Elliot, the first question was about with your wife, or people that you've dated. Do you ask that question about about their previous relationship? And then would you talk to your daughter? I know your daughter's only 3, but we talked about this earlier. The temperament of a man, and how he should address you. And I know we've talked about respect before, but get a little deeper. And the day is far spent, y'all. We're gonna go into just the guys sign off. So
Okay.
so
Well,
first
do I
question,
care? Yeah,
previous
care about our
relationship.
past. Yeah, previous
Mhm.
relationships. To be honest with you, unless it was an engagement, a prior marriage, or you had a kid's father, you had a kid's father, I don't really care. I'm here. If you're a Christian, then I can only hold you accountable to what you say you believe. So what you did in your past, I mean, really, it's kind of doesn't really matter at that point, as long as you didn't, commit crimes or something I need to know of. But if you were married, I would want to know how did that marriage dissolve? If you were engaged, I want to know, like, oh, how did that? Why didn't you move to the altar? If you had a kid's father, why didn't you marry your kid's father? Outside of that, I don't really care. So because I'm here. So what really matters is how are you going to operate around me? You could act completely different with someone else. I mean, that's no really concern to me. I don't really think you should be for what. But to temperament about for my daughter, she's going to see by example. She's going to see how I move. I believe a man's temperament should be clear-minded, where you can see things clearly, meaning you're not I won't say addicted, but you're not consumed with things that cloud your mind. I think David mentioned video games. That people don't understand, man. You meet a man that plays video games, he probably is not the great guy. I'm talking about playing video games consistently. I mean, I'm telling you, his mind is that stuff really messes with you. Is he big on alcohol? Is he big on other things? Is he clear-minded? Where God is allowing him to just see things clearly. Is he dignified? Is he a respectful man? Like when I come in a room, I'm going to demand respect just based on my presence. So that's typically what men. When you walk into a room, the attitude shifts. Certain people don't communicate in certain ways. Certain people do this because you yourself just have a presence that you garner respect because you're dignified. And so a man's temperament should incorporate those things. And self-control. You have to be self-controlled as a man. You don't move certain ways because you know how to control your emotions. It's not that you don't have them. You just know how to control them. You know how to, you don't just respond just erratically. You know how to literally respond judiciously with your emotions and things like that. You don't just react to things. So are you a self-controlled man? That's critical. I would also say your faith. When you speak with your family and when you make certain moves, are you constantly talking about how your faith is driving this decision or driving this behavior? And so that is going to incorporate your temperament. You don't do certain things because God has told you how to move a certain way. And in love, do you move with loving direction? So we already know what the Bible says about love, patience, kindness, meekness, all of those things. So when she sees me talk to her mom, she should see this sacrificial, loving leadership. So that she see that on a day-to-day basis on how I honor her mom, things like that. That's how our man, so even if we were to get into it, she doesn't see me yelling at her mom. She doesn't see me, even with her as a child. I don't yell at my daughter. I don't do those type of things. I talk to her. And so she has to see that men don't express anger that way. Men don't express anger with violence and with abuse. So she has to see. That's why I won't ever spank my daughter. I don't believe in that. Like, how can I hit my daughter but then tell her men can't hit her? That's crazy to me. So she has to see that it's certain ways that men move that are for protection. She has to feel safe. A man's temperament should always create safety in and around him. And lastly would be consistency. Is a man consistent with what he say he believes, what he does on a day in and day out basis? Dad says he works hard, but he comes home every day and loves his family. I see Dad day in and day out speak about the scriptures, speak about God, treat my mother right, provide for his family. That consistent leadership day in and day out. You have to be consistent. That's part of a man's temperament. If you all over the place, I don't know if you're going to be this way today, or this way tomorrow. Are you going to be here today? You coming home tonight? That's crazy. So no, a man has to be consistent with what he say he believes and what he say he's going to do. And that trustworthiness is crucial. That provides safety for that woman's emotions, for her physical well-being, and the whole bit. So I would say those are the temperament that I think of.
I'm so glad we ended on that question, because as we've seen in the last 2 weeks, I agreed, like, hey, sweep the floor. Like, it's not, there are things that we as women, not as just we as women, that we can do. And it's okay to just, hey, if you can't cook, then make sure you, what are you bringing to the table, cook or clean or what have you. I actually think that we should be that helpmate in the household. But at the same time, how you address me, and this is what I've been saying, I'm going to be less likely and less amenable if you're disrespectful and hurtful and want to break me down. And it's fun to make me cry and to make me hurt in order to get me to do something. So that temperament question that JDUB posed before he left is so important, because I know that men want respect. And we talk about respect on our previous show, but the respecting me as a woman is so important as well. And that temperament that you bring to the table as a husband makes all the difference. And it just makes all the difference. And how you get something from us. And it's so Elliot said something when you said that your wife doesn't say you're wrong, but how she speaks to you and how she, because I always said that if I disagreed with my man, I would never dress him down in public. Like, that's not okay. My husband, I would like, let me talk to you after after we leave here, or something like that. There are certain things that we as women need to do, and certain things that out of respect and just as a human, but especially as a man. So that's why I definitely wanted to have this show. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna have David start off with the sign off, and then Black, and we're just gonna go around, and then Elliot. Dave Black, make sure you mention Central Lyrical Readings, because David did give you a shout out. So make sure you guys talk about that. And I think we're gonna have a part 2, part 3, part 4. We're gonna keep going with this. So this was so important, and it probably will not be at 10 o'clock in the morning next time. Well, 10 o'clock Eastern next time. So so go ahead, David, you start.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation, and I think it's always good to have the guys tell some of these things, because like I said, it's always okay and normal for women to have a list of what they want in a man and all those kind of things, but then you have to also ask yourself, what does that type of man want? What does that type of man, what is he looking for? Because you just need to match up that way. But thank you so much, Crystal, for having us and for having these conversations. I think it's very good for us to listen to each other and not just talk at each other as men and women. But like I said before, I think it's important for us to think about what we're doing. If you are trying to find a mate, find a partner, find a husband, or find a wife, and every time you just want to be combative and comment about, oh, you don't need a man, and it's not all about this, not about that. I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And unfortunately, on this YouTube, there are a lot of women who are into this, and time is just going by. Time is going by, honestly. And many of these people that you kind of have all these arguments with, like Elliot, like myself, and some other people, we just go back to our married home and continue enjoying our life. And you are just miserable, thinking, yeah, I think it's unnecessary. You just haven't listened to what's been said, and if you need to do some reflecting, and we can all get to where we're trying to get to, as opposed to trying to combat each other. But I look forward to the part 2, the part 3, the part 4, for us to keep on having these conversations. And thank you so much for having me. Please subscribe to the two great men on the panel. They have their YouTube channel. I just like to jump on people's channels and share my opinion. So you can always find me on Crystal's channel, probably. Thank you.
Go ahead, Black.
Yeah, so my name, my channel is Black Made Media. You can find it's just interesting topics about friendship, love, relationships, family, all in a relationship as a whole on that channel. The side channel that Crystal is talking about is Sensual Lyrical Readings, where this YouTube channel called Sensual Lyrical Readings, where I go on and I just read lyrics from well-known R&B groups and songs that are out there that make us feel a certain way. So you like to go on and listen to that, go ahead and take a listen to that as well. What else? I think that is it for me. I'll see you guys next time.
Y'all make sure and listen to Boys to Men, read by Black Made Media. Go ahead, Elliot.
Hey, that's dope. That's dope. Hey, this was a great panel. Love the guys, man. Talking about this. This is so important. I would lastly say, man, we need each other. Like I said, I can survive, but I can't thrive without my wife. And I believe women, they definitely need men. They were created for men. So we need each other in order to do what God is asking us to do for him. My channel, the Street Preacher Podcast, I do Marriage Mondays and Wealth Wednesdays. Marriage Mondays, I just pick a topic and kind of dive into kind of what God says about marriage. And then with Wealth Wednesday, I just talk about what God says about wealth and give some practical solution on how to get the bag, kind of some things that we do in our own life and things like that. So, so hey, go pick one of those videos and check it out.
I also want to say, make sure you subscribe to JDUB on YouTube, because he also does reviews of Mavs, Married at First Sight, and Ready to Love. And I also think he's doing what is it called? Love is Blind as well, I think. And I will be bringing back the women's panel. We talked about partner versus provider with the gentleman, but I also want to, like David said, what they think of as a partner and a provider may not be the same thing as what women think of as a partner and a provider. So the women are coming back, and then I'm going to have the ladies speak money attitudes in a relationship and the communication breakdown. So I'm going to be doing that, as well as bringing the men back. Thank you guys so much. This was very enlightening, and this was huge, and this was a huge help, because I gained a lot of knowledge. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and that's it. Check out today, this afternoon at 6 p.m. Misha Allen and I are going to be doing our review of Ready to Love. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So Misha Allen and I today at 6 p.m. Eastern. So thank you guys so much.